All right. Well, good day, everyone. My name is Matt Pfeiffer with Bentonville-based Winning with Walmart. It is a beautiful day in Northwest Arkansas, and we are very excited today to host an event called Connecting the Dots, Getting Your Money's Worth from Walmart's Retail Media Network. And for those of you that have arrived on time, we're going to show you the respective starting on time. I expect a surge of other folks to be adding in the next few minutes. But just wanted to welcome you quickly. Again, my name is Matt Pfeiffer. Winning with Walmart, if you've not had an opportunity, it is essentially a gathering place and a resource center for the Walmart supplier community. We host a number of conversations, courses, campaigns, such as events like this, and offering tremendous connectivity throughout the Walmart supplier community. Just one thing quickly, and I don't want to spend too much time here, but we have been in the business of teaching and training and collaborating with some of Walmart's top suppliers, sellers, and solution providers for nearly 20 years, although we are not affiliated with or endorsed by Walmart. So nothing we do or say or share is intended to imply that Winning with Walmart is a Walmart vehicle for advertising or any other commercial purposes. And we do look forward to getting to know you and to serving you. We're super excited to have Sean Brown and his team from Bird Dog leading this, hosting this event. They've got a number of just incredible speakers that will be joining throughout the course of this event today. But Sean is the founder and CEO of Bird Dog, and I know he'll be introducing himself and telling you more about he and the organization. So, Sean, I'm going to stop sharing there. I know you'll need a moment to transition, but thank you so much for doing this today. We're excited to have everyone here, and let's get started.
Fantastic. Thank you. Let me see if I can pull this up. Let's see. Is that working for everybody? Everybody see that?
Give it a minute.
There we
There
go.
we go.
Yep.
Yep,
And is that full slideshow?
there it is.
All right. Okay. See if I can drag that. All right. So, I want to introduce myself. I'm Sean Brown, as Matt mentioned, founder and co-founder with Jeff Coleman, my partner, who's on the line as well. And we've created Bird Dog. We're a retail media agency. We do make it to Bentonville often, but we got the other corners of the country covered. I'm over in Atlanta. Jeff is in San Diego. And between us both, we have a ton of experience working on brands on a global scale, enterprise to small and startup clients. My background is in 25 years of CPG before retail media even existed, doing shopper and trade and customer across a lot of the large brands. Been in working with Walmart for decades. Back to it's nice to see they have this whole new brand new facility in Bentonville. I think there'll be a lot of us who miss working in that old building with those folding chairs and pitching to those buyers back then. But I'll let Jeff kind of talk about his experience in working within particularly retail media.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's great to be here. My name is Jeff. I'm the Chief Client Officer at Bird Dog, and as Sean said, co-founder as well. I've been in the retail media space about 15 years now, working with brands to help them scale across Amazon, Walmart, Target, Google, Instacart. So anywhere that has a retail media network. I also got the privilege to lead the agency team that was one of the first two or three partners when Walmart first released what became Walmart Connect and their advertising platform. We got the chance to beta test the
Oh,
technology that they developed, as well as be one of the first agencies to develop services around that because of our partnership with them. So it's been an exciting ride, and we've got expertise across Walmart as well as Amazon and all the other retailers that you might be investing in. So looking forward to taking you through some educational stuff today.
awesome. Okay. So a little bit about us as an agency. We're retail media. We are very focused on mid-market and SMB brands. We're full funnel. So when we talk about retail media, think of it in kind of three terms. There is retail media, which is exclusively about the media on the retailer-owned platform. There is full funnel, which is all about top to bottom, including DSP and streaming and total commerce, which include platforms offsite as well. And so we're all about trying to find those audiences from anywhere they are to drive performance on Walmart. And that's why we call ourselves Bird Dog. We find and fetch those audiences no matter where they are. And we're all about data and tech and AI. We want to level the playing field to give everybody the same kind of technology and tools. And you're going to see a lot of our partners today talking about that. And then our focus on SMB. We want to make sure that everybody has the right to fight and be able to compete and level the playing field there. So today, not only do you have us, but you have some guest speakers that are going to join us as well who, when you talk about working and succeeding on Walmart or Amazon or any retailer platform, it requires technology and data, and it's not all within just that retailer-owned platform. We'll talk a lot about the retailer today, but we're going to have partners from Sky talking about technology, our friends at MediaIQ talking about audiences and 1P data. We'll walk you through Centella, but then we'll talk about what do you want to do with your 1P data. And then Bradley and Justin from Keen are going to help us with understanding budget and understanding media mix modeling. Wade actually had a flight conflict and can't get onto the call off from the airport fast enough, so you'll get a double dose of me. I'll be impersonating Wade today. But before we get going, we would love to know a little bit about those who are on the call. Just, in the chat or the Q&A, feel free to drop in. Tell us where you are. We would love to know where you're coming from. And we have a couple more questions beyond this. All right, Illinois, Chicago area. Awesome. I think I mentioned Jeff and I are in Atlanta and San Diego, Bentonville, of course, in there as well. But I'd also like to ask you guys, let's see, what category are you working in? Are you working in CPG, electronics, apparel? Like Walmart's pretty big in tons of categories. Beverage, all right, CPG and beverage, awesome. Most of my career has been in beverage, worked on Coke and Miller Coors and Anheuser-Busch, rugs, grocery. Yeah, all these are great categories within Walmart, particularly for Marketplace, and why the ads and what you're doing there plays a big piece. Supplements for pets, huge growing category, awesome. Oh, snacks, nuts. So a lot of CPG, a lot of what we expect to see both in store and online. And then one more question. What is your biggest concern or frustration that you think that you have today from the e-commerce space with Walmart? And what are you hoping we kind of address today? Don't promise we'll hit everything, but we're going to try. And this is a longer one. It's going to keep you to, I should play the music from Jeopardy while we're doing this because, it takes a minute to write what your frustration is. IROAS, so increment. We'll talk about incrementality today and understanding what's the most important way to understand your dollars and your performance. Any other frustration? How to target a region. We will definitely talk about that and what you can do on-site and off-site. Efficient spend, absolutely. We will walk through media mix modeling. Well, first off, we'll walk through how to spend on platform and then understanding media mix modeling of where to spend those dollars and being most efficient at doing it, right? Okay. So, but also to manage expectations for today. It is really all about a 101. Now, 101 can be very deep. We have 100 plus 150 slides to share with you guys. We want to dive into everything. What it is not, this is not the tips and tricks of how to jump your ROAS and do something in 2 weeks to get to a 35x ROAS. It's not the hands-on keyboard piece, but we're setting the foundation to everybody understand where all the tools are, where all the ads products are, what do you do with your PDP, and how to succeed across all of those. All right, so for today, the agenda for today, we've kind of bucketed it into 3 chapters. A quick question, yes, this will be recorded. It's also being live streamed on YouTube. So you can be able to capture all this and jump ahead to the parts you don't like or jump to the parts that are most valuable to you. Digital shelf is our first chapter. We're going to talk about the importance of PDP and then connecting that and understanding the analytics behind that and what tools you have to do that. We're going to talk about media and analytics. Jeff will walk you through mastering the basics, all the ad products that exist within Walmart Connect, and what are some best practices around that. And then we'll talk about bidding and targeting best practices with those products. And we'll have Sky join us for that, and we'll talk about what you can do on platform as well as using technology off platform, and then the measurement for success and how to plan for peak. How do you plan for deal days, tentpole moments, holidays, etc. And then lastly, we'll close with data and audiences. This will dive a lot into the insights around your 1P data and what 1P data Walmart has, and what is Centilla, and what is that today versus what it will be. And we'll talk about budget optimization. We'll talk about how to spend your dollars, how to understand planning, where's your next best dollar go on which product, on-site, off-site, and how to most efficiently deliver against that. Kind of set stage for the day. When we think about those tools, everything works together. We want to make sure that clients understand that there's a very codependent relationship between the digital shelf and the media. The last thing that we would ever recommend or tell anybody to do is to run digital media, retail media, without having an optimized digital shelf. You're driving traffic to something that may not be optimized to convert, and so you would not be getting the best spend of your dollars. Additionally, that digital shelf is so important because we want to make sure that you're getting as much organic lift out of that before you get any paid. So how do we make sure we're optimizing all the right keywords and all the right conversion tactics and tools are set up? Because that is your best and probably most inexpensive way to drive conversions. Then we want to look at the media. And about there is about understanding audiences. It's about understanding media mix models, the technology you need to do that, and how to have unified measure behind it. I do want to talk about audiences for a sec. When most people think about audiences, it applies mostly to display or streaming TV or some of the social platforms. The way we like to think about audiences is groups of cohorts, shoppers, audiences who are there to purchase. So the first audience you will look at is around those coming on site to search. That is an audience. That is a group of people looking for your brand. And then from there, we start to look at other audiences within the DSP or within Meta or TikTok or Google or other platforms offsite and some of the other platforms like Ibotta or Shopkick or Smart Commerce. All of those represent an audience to deliver. But you always want to start with what's happening on site. So as we look at performance around that and how to attack a process for success within there, we look at 4 steps, those foundational elements to get you success for retail media. 1, it is that digital shelf and retail operations. Are you set up there? And that's what we're going to start our conversation with today. The second then is your data and media strategy. Are you maximizing the data you have and the tools you have to have the right kind of activation and the plans and the campaigns built to go to market? The third is what's the primary media activation? This is now we're going to market. I talked about audiences, and this is how we're kind of generating this is there is demand capture. Those are the shoppers who have shown up on Walmart.com to shop or to buy your brand or to buy your category. We want to capture those audiences first. And Jeff will talk about all those products and what those mean. And then we can look at on and off-site demand generation. How are we looking a little more up funnel to find more audiences, to drive more traffic or prepare for peak moments? But those are the 2 spaces of how media activation comes to life. And then lastly, the optimization and analytics. How are we, after we have media running, optimizing in real time? It is not a set it and forget it plan. It is a plan that you always have to be leveraging the data to understand performance and understand we want to optimize and change tools. And that leads us, as we will talk a little later, about technology and why technology is so important, because a lot of the retailer-owned platforms don't allow that automation. And so having outside tools make a ton of sense to make those things happen. So then our e-commerce flywheel for driving across this, as you think of the business, these are the components that make everything work. I'm sure you heard the term flywheel, and and a lot of times clients will say, like, I have a great PDP, or I'm starting to run media, or I'm getting some organic growth. It's not just about what you're doing. It's about this flywheel and the algorithms behind it that make it work. And so more traction on sales over time. The sales velocity that's at the bottom helps improve your rank, helps improve your organic rank, helps improve where you show up in search. How your ratings and reviews, which we'll talk about, have a huge impact on this. Your content, is it relevant, whether that be imagery or the copy? And your conversion rate, sales, what's driving there. And so all of those factor in, and over time, they start to work greater and greater together. The algorithm picks that up and allows you to have greater performance of your brand. We would love to say you get to immediately have the success right off the bat when you turn your activations on, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. But other factors that come into the sales velocity, which we'll talk about, ads do factor into that, your DSP, offsite, your pricing, your inventory, making sure you're stocked there, and then things outside of your control, seasonality or competitors and what they're doing. So monitoring them and making sure we're responding to them in terms of what their paid search looks like. Are they starting to gain share of voice versus you? How's the inventory look? Or what does their paid strategy look like? Are they getting something greater than you? So we start to look at all those components to make sure this flywheel is always working in your favor. All right. So let's start with the Walmart PDP and just start breaking this down and all the core components to make sure that you are set up for success with each of your pages. So why does it even matter? So there's several reasons. The first being that 32% of all shoppers start their search from anywhere on Walmart. That's compared to Amazon and to Google. So Google's number two, Amazon still leads the pack. They're at 56%, but 32% of all shoppers start their search at Walmart versus other platforms. So as you make sure that you are part of that equation and that your keywords are there and that your product PDP page is set up for that. That's why it's so important to optimize our listings, take advantage of a third of the market coming to Walmart. So when they do that search, think of search in two parts. There's first glance and second glance. First glance is going to be where you show up on the search page against other products throughout the portfolio of everything being sold on there. So we'll use Crayola for this example. As we start to break down just on the first glance, things that matter. Your main hero image, and we'll talk about images as a whole, but this is your primary image, and you want that image to show as much of a complete set or features as much as possible, because this is the visual compelling piece that's going to get someone to act. The shoppers act on the visuals more than anything else on these pages. Your product title matters. So there's a lot of things you want to do within your product title of certain packing in keywords, but we also, and sometimes those titles can be very, very long. We recommend to stay within 70 characters. And the reason is because past that on Walmart, you drop off in those that is not seen on this page. So if we make sure we stay within 70 characters of your message, it'll all be showing up here on this first glance page. Other key components here are price and reviews. Price, you want to make sure that we're competitively priced. That's going to help you protect your buy box position within these pages. And reviews. Reviews are really critical. This is something that a lot of brands take for granted, but as you're starting out, or if you don't have enough reviews, it impacts the sale. 93% of shoppers, reviews influence their purchase decision. So basically everybody is influenced by reviews especially on this first page. If I'm looking across competitive products here and they're all fairly equal or price competitive, the reviews are going to drive where they click into. Now, on the flip side of that, 67%, two-thirds of shoppers will change their purchase decision if you have negative reviews. So if they are significantly negative or there's a percentage of them there, that is enough to sway a shopper out. So those are two major factors that impact how your PDP will perform both on first glance and second glance. So at second glance, this is at your actual PDP. This is they've clicked in. So now they have shown on the first glance, they're showing intent for the category. Now they're showing intent on your product. And now we want to make sure we're converting this shopper as quickly as we can with as much of the right content so they don't have to scroll any further or look at any other pages. So as we start to break this down, there are 7 key elements of your product detail page. There's images, there's price, And we've talked about price and title and reviews a little bit already. We'll talk about shipping, your description, and enhanced content. In the Amazon world, that's A plus content. For Walmart, it's enhanced. And we'll talk about how to get that created and who are partners to make that happen.
Sean, can I interrupt you with a question real quick from
Yeah,
the
fire away.
Q&A? One of our attendees was asking, what's the cutoff between a good or a bad rating? I think in reference to the previous slide. You want to talk a little bit about how we think about the ratings kind of system there?
Yeah, so we definitely want to avoid. So two things. When you think of ratings, think of them as first off, it's a feedback form, right? It's also you should always be looking at that in terms of understanding a bad rating if it could be related to the packaging wasn't great, or the shipping didn't come as it did, or I wasn't happy with some of the product feature. So that first off, be thinking of that so that you can avoid those in the future. And majority of the time, when ratings come back poor, it has everything to do with there's a miscommunication or a mismatch in expectations. It has to do with how your PDP, what it communicated in terms of the visuals or the copy or the messaging and the product that showed up, did it match that? And if there's a dissonance between those, that's when bad reviews come through. Now, there's also going to be some reviews that you just can't control. Some people are just grumpy and things are beyond your control and it has to do with shipping and wasn't within your from a 3PL or from Walmart. But when you get to bad ratings, those are typically going to be, you know, twos and ones are going to be bad. We don't want those. Threes are not ideal either. You want to be 4 or 5 stars wherever you can. For those, when we get those bad reviews, those are great opportunities to do outreach to that shopper, create an engagement, and see if we can resolve that issue and maybe change that review. It's really important.
Only thing I'd add to that, yeah, 100% agree. Only thing I'd add to that is that, like you said, you want to tend to be 4 and above when Walmart or Amazon or other retailers are filling out the actual stars. So if you see the kind of blue line going over to reviews and the ratings here, if you have, they'll round in order to get to the right star rating. So if you're at a 3.8 or above, you should round up to getting that 4th star colored in. It's kind of walking the line. Ideally, you'd be higher than a 4.5 plus to get that 5th star, but you should get that 4th star visually if you're at a 3.8 and above, because they'll kind of round up for you. Similarly, if you're at like a 4.1, they'll round down to just having that 4th star. So visually and from a consumer's perspective, they want to see that 4th star.
Okay. Moving on. So why do those 7 elements matter? It totally impacts the algorithm for Walmart. What's interesting is Amazon's A9 and A10 algorithm are fairly ambiguous. They keep that pretty close to the vest of what goes into that. However, Walmart's a little more transparent. And so there are really 3 big components that kind of are this optimization triangle that drive how their algorithm works and why the PDP content matters. So that content refers to your listing, the keywords that are used within there, and product images, titles. Those all factor in. Any offers, so your pricing, or if there are offers that make it more appealing, help propel it up. And then performance. It gets back to that. We talked about that flywheel. The performance of how sales have been going, items sold, and what's the response to buyer questions, or the reviews that are on there, or this order defect rate. So making sure that those perceptions match the expectations before as the product comes to them. So that's why everything in this PDP matters. Again, don't want to spend media to drive something that doesn't perform and meet the expectations. All right. So we're going to kind of quickly go through each of these elements. When you look at your PDP, 5 images are what will show up. You can have far more than that. Once someone clicks onto the main image, and we can see more of the images there, and then it can include video or content of any kind that you want to capture on there. Those first 5 are what show up. And when we look at those, a lot of the top performers, because again, shoppers are more visual, and a lot of their decisions, they want to start with the visuals before they start diving into the copy and the bullets for their answers. So a good best practice is making sure you can include some copy overlay on top of any visuals to kind of give more detail. Whenever you can do that, it makes it a lot easier and they don't have to dive further into the content. Again, we're trying to make them have a decision faster in the process as possible. The longer the dwell time is great. It does help the algorithm, but we want to make sure we want to get in the basket in the cart as fast as possible. And why those images matter. 87% of shoppers say high quality product images are essential for online purchases, and 67% consider quality images very important. So getting the right context, showing the right imagery, showing it in all its formats that you can are really, really important. Uh, and one of the questions we get from a lot of partners or clients is, but where do I go to get? I don't have a big in-house team. I'm sure if you have your own creative agency or in-house, awesome. If not, there are tons of great partners that are out there who are using AI as well as very quick turn services. We've listed a handful here that we like that are really good at creating some of that content pretty quickly and inexpensively for you. And if you want even a deeper understanding of who those partners are, we recommend going to the Marketplace for Walmart Solutions Providers link that's on there. You can also Google that and find it, and there will be a full list of several partners who are authorized or recommended by Walmart to be able to give this kind of content for you.
Sean, we had another question from the Q&A, and I'm happy to take this one. So the question is, do Walmart cash offers syndicated via Ibotta affect product listing placement? That's a great question, very nuanced. So the short answer is indirectly. They're not going to directly impact how well you rank. I'm assuming you're talking about like product placement in terms of ranking on the SERP. So correct me if I'm wrong there, but they're not going to directly impact your organic ranking, but pricing in general and how well your product is priced does directly affect your organic ranking. The other thing that directly affects it is sales velocity and conversion rate. And so if that Walmart cash offer or anything that you're doing to run a promotion or anything like that improves sales velocity and improves conversion rate, that then in turn can have an effect on your organic ranking. And so directly, not so much. Indirectly, it can if it's effective.
Okay. So also on your product page, 2-day shipping. Why it's important is everything on Walmart, you're competing with Amazon. You're competing with this has become the standard expectation in the marketplace. So 58, nearly 2/3 of shoppers expect it. So what comes with that is, making sure that you are working with what's the best resource for you, whether that be Walmart fulfillment services or finding a 3PL. And depending on what your product is, having a 3PL who has warehouses across the country to meet that standard. Lately we've been hearing feedback from some brands that Walmart fulfillment is a little pricey, and it makes it very difficult for them to leverage that. And so finding a 3PL partner is really important. But this is critical just from a standpoint of let's remove as many barriers as we can with shoppers to make sure that you get in the basket and they don't shop for either come out of your brand and go to another product or go to another platform to find it. Okay, the detail page. Now this is all your content. This is going to be about this item. This is the longer description. This is where you want to put in as much as you want and you can do this with paragraph form. This can be bullet form. Can be both combined. But you want to be able to get as much of a compelling story here. And if they're clicked this far in and they're reading this, there is high intent and they're looking for something more specific about the brand to get them over the finish line and get in the cart. So making sure that you've got all the right kind of content here. This is where you can max out. You can put as much here as you'd like. So we want to make sure you're packing this in well. Focus on product attributes because they're going to want to focus on the product first. A lot of times, some brand teams get involved. They want to talk about the brand. You can do that, but put that at the end. Because those aren't the things that are making someone decide between product A and product B right now. And integrate this keyword density. And we'll talk about how you find those keywords here in a bit. And when you're considering this, think about top claims, think about what consumers are searching for. So it gets back to the right piece. Let's put product pieces first. And what questions do they have? What are their frequently asked questions that you get about the product that you can answer here? Let's remove all obstacles and barriers from a purchase. Okay, and then enhanced content. So most been doing this is their response to A plus content. This is, it's rich media, and it's also sometimes below the fold content. But there are three types that Walmart allows. There's 360 spins, videos, and below the fold. And the below the fold content can be anything from enhanced feature sets, comparison charts, brand story sections, to be able to give more context. And we find the brands that do A plus or rich media have higher conversion rates. And the rich media can improve your search results. It can increase your order conversions. It can reduce returns. It also should improve your reviews as well, because this is going to be richer content. They're going to see more of the product come to life throughout here. When it's done well, as an example, as a case, there's a furniture brand after implementing rich media. They saw 26% rise in transactions, so you're getting a higher conversion rate, and they got a surge in 18% of their keywords. So this is definitely, we want to make sure you're mastering the basics. Get that first. A lot of people want to go into straight to making really cool imagery and video and spend content. We highly recommend that, but after you form the basics first and making sure all the content we talked up until this point is tackled. And so Echo, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they are a partner that is approved they're integrated into the platform. So this is an example of how it's coming to life on page. You're able to take that product. When it says try it, you're able to grab your mouse. You can spin that product around in a 360-degree from top, bottom, side, zoom in, see every little detail you want to see about that product. It gives the customer an opportunity to get an engagement with that they wouldn't normally get, and we're seeing higher conversions rate with that. This is one of the top partners that's doing that out there. If you're looking for others, again, that solutions provider link has others who are doing this, but right now we'd highly recommend this partner. Okay, so that's the breakdown of the PDP. I'm going to take you through then how do we make sure how's your ad performance and your organic search performance impacted by what's in that PDP? And this is where our friends at Profitero, we're going to be here. So I'm going to do my best impersonation and have my notes in front of me to kind of go through this. So when you think of search, it's an optimization process. Customer search behavior changes frequently, so you must approach your approach to selecting and implementing keywords in your content. View it as a cycle. Don't stop revisiting. So this is something you want to keep coming back to. It's not a set it and forget it. So we're looking at the assortment, the keywords, the organic search, paid search, and reporting. We want to build those search terms into your PDP. We want to define those terms also that are going to help with more of the paid investment behind that, and we're going to monitor in real time. As an example, continuing on with Crayola, so Profitero as our partner, and look, there are a lot of partners out there who can do this. We're just using them as the case for this. Brands can source keywords. You can use, and we love Analytic Index as well, that are highly winnable keywords versus just popular. You can also size up the opportunity for each keyword. Keywords are like markers that are highly competitive. It's important to look at long tail and seasonal keywords like Easter basket essentials, markers for adults, washable markers, and even price point related search like Easter ideas for under $10. All of those become words that in key moments or seasonal tent poles help drive within your performance for organic or paid on both sides. So how do you determine which are the right keywords to add to your PDP? So this will pull reports from looking across and scanning all competitors as well as your top performing keywords. As you think about them, think about customer entrants. Tell those interests in two primary ways. What are they searching for and what are the reviews? Mining both data sets give us an idea for how new keywords to be added and features that are set to important that may not be highlighted in your PDP. So this allows us to understand what are the right ones that are branded or unbranded. category. So a lot of times, a lot of brands will focus on just their branded keywords. We will definitely highlight, we'll want to focus on some unbranded or behavior type keywords to get baked into your PDP, as well as your paid programming as you move forward. And then creating a scalable process to edit the content. The first use case for all brands today wanting to use AI, they should be able to utilize some sort of generative AI to assist in content creation for PDPs. And we definitely recommend that as a great place to start. I would tell you to use ChatGPT or any other tool as a place to direct it to your competitors and your own current brand page to create. That'll be your first draft. Never use that as the draft, but it's a great way to get more content and the right content in there. But brands can also automate content and use simplified workflows to approve and reject changes. So if you have a platform tool like Profitero here, it can make some recommendations, take a look at your PDP, and then based on those recommendations, you can choose to implement those or make it edits and move forward. We're all about, when we talk about AI, there's two buzzwords in the industry right now, AI and incrementality. And we'll talk about incrementality later, but AI is a great tool for helping you get 80% of the way there. Help you look at data and scale, look at your competitors, look at the market, look at your page, and kind of bring forward some of the things that you may have not put in there. That's a great way to move forward very, very quickly. And then lastly, we want to make sure we're measuring this performance. How do we measure the content, measure your approach? There's common metrics that we look out there. There's share of voice on page one. So how much are you showing up versus your category share? That's where you want to compare these things to. So share of voice will be the percentage of which shoppers see your brand show up on organic or paid media versus how do you show up versus your category share. And if you're surpassing your category share, you're winning. So that's when a lot of brands will start to try to conquest you. So we're doing that on the most important keywords. We're looking at the number of keywords where your products appear on page one. We're looking at the content completeness score. Is it right? And so all these metrics here help you. There's a lot of tools out there, and we can make recommendations on which ones, but they're like Helium 10 or Profitero are great examples where they'll look at each of these components and give your PDP a score. And you'll start to understand how am I performing? Am I hitting and a lot of times those scores will give you on a scale of 1 to 100 or 1 to 10. And that will get you an 8.8 or an 88. But that doesn't always necessarily mean it's great. What they're looking at there are the basics being covered? Do I have enough of the right bullets or enough of the title? Do I have enough images? But again, you can always go more. We always want to make sure, are you at least hitting the benchmark of the core basic before you start spending anywhere else? But there's always room for improvement across any of these pieces. So we want to make sure we measure the brand level overall to track progress and key measures frequently and monitor the item level. So there's metrics to help us do that and understand the digital shelf, look across your entire portfolio. What typically happens is the brands, if you have multiple brands, your top performing SKUs will look really good, but maybe your bottom performers won't. And there's low-hanging fruit, how you can get some unfair share and share of voice by improving your portfolio brands in the PDP. Cool. Okay, so we're going to pause there for a sec. And we've been doing Q&A, has been going through this, but we'll open up for a little bit more Q&A right now if you guys want to kind of dive with any other questions you have about PDP.
We did have Sean, one question coming in from the chat or Q&A. Why do content scores change frequently when the content hasn't changed? I'm going to guess that you're looking at kind of Walmart's content score there, because if you're using different tools, I mean, those will just change based on how the tool kind of measures it. Sometimes their standards change, which has happened, kind of a couple times. So that can lead to changes in content scores. Sometimes content does also update or change, even if you're not necessarily aware of it. Even if you're brand registered or you're the brand owner, we've seen instances of content kind of getting mistakenly added or adjusted based on what other resellers might submit, things of that nature. So It's something to keep a lookout for. If you do see that content score changing, maybe just double check that Walmart's system didn't accidentally change something without you knowing about it. So that can happen as well.
Yeah, so a lot of times what we see on marketplaces, images, content, every piece of technology has bugs. And sometimes it falls out, or maybe an image you updated gets kicked back out after even being on there. So even though you may make changes, it may be doing things that you didn't realize. So that's why this constant looking at it, making sure it is where it's supposed to be is really important, especially if you're using a PIM partner like a Salsify or a Syndigo when they're pushing out and syndicating content for you. Um, if you're doing it hands-on keys yourself, it's a little more manual, but definitely be doing this. And these kind of tools help you understand something changed. I need to dig in and see what changed. Um, I see another question. How do we see the weight of each attribute? So an example like this, these aren't weighted. These are just straight up scores on specific elements across the board. And most tools we see kind of take all the if you're getting a total score for your total page, like a Helium 10 does, it kind of weights them all equally. I wouldn't, and to your point, I'm not sure I would say that that's exactly fair because some components of that are definitely far more important. As we talked about visuals are really important to this, and so I would personally weight those at a higher rate. But everybody's a little unique in that space.
Just one quick thing to add on to that. The retailers won't give you the weighting. That's kind of I mean, that's their algorithm. It's kind of their secret sauce. So you're not going to get that from them. But to Sean's point, imagery can be very important. Video specifically can be very important. When you're optimizing your PDP, you kind of want to think of it in two parts. You want to optimize for the consumer and their conversion, and then you want to optimize for the algorithm and how it's going to read your page. And so the written content is really important to optimize for the algorithm specifically. You know, your title is more for the customer, but that third, fourth, fifth bullet point that a lot of people just aren't going to read, that's more for the algorithm. That's how you can get the keywords in there that improve your ranking. Imagery, videos, those things are going to help you optimize towards conversion. And we see brands that take advantage of all the image spots that have high quality videos. They tend to convert better, which indirectly leads to higher ranking. So, short answer, you're not going to get the weighting from the retailer, but that's how I would think about the two kind of aspects of updating your PDP in terms of what's important for the algorithm, what's important for the consumer. That'll tend to lead you in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, I don't see any other questions. All right. So look, we're actually tracking a little early on some of the content. So I know that first off, I think we meant this is signed up for like a multi-hour. We're trying to cut this down to get you a little less time. So we can keep pressing forward, or I know that look, we're 45 minutes in. If everybody wants to take a 5 minute, I'm happy to give a quick 5 minute break, so take a pause, and we can come back at let's say we come back at 12:50 Eastern or one or what is that, 11:50 Central? That works for everybody?
So that'd be about 7 minutes, Sean.
7 minutes. Come back in 7 minutes. I just want to make sure everybody has a chance for it's lunchtime. Grab a bite, grab something, bio break, whatever you need. Okay. I hope everybody had a chance to do whatever and got the email done, took care of the kiddo, uh, caught a little bit of Sports Center, whatever it was. All right, so let's get back to it. All right. So now you're going to get to hear from Jeff and talk about mastering the basics. So now we're going to talk about all the formats that are within Walmart Connect.
Yeah, so like Sean said, so now we're going to dive into specific ad units. In this section, in the first section, I'm going to talk about just kind of what they are, where they are, give a little bit of kind of best practices. But in the next section, we're going to get to hear from Kevin from Sky, who's going to talk a little bit more about optimization techniques, and I'll help kind of set the stage for how we think about how to build things there as well. Anyways, so there's three main types of ad units that Walmart offers. And the first one, sponsored products, is it can be a little bit confusing because they kind of call the entire bucket of CPC based ads or cost per click based ads sponsored products, but then there's a specific ad unit that's also called sponsored products. So just kind of be aware of that. We'll use Walmart's terminology, but just wanted you to kind of be aware of that. They also have what's called on-site display ads. So whereas sponsored products, you're bidding on specific terms, specific keywords, you're paying per click. Display ads, whether they're on-site or off-site, you're typically paying per impression, or more accurately per 1,000 impressions. And you're not necessarily bidding on a keyword. You're targeting a specific group of people. You might be targeting a specific category. It's more audience-based. It's more group-focused. And so the actual way that you're going to activate those ads is a little bit different. Main difference between on-site and off-site display, as the name implies, on-site display ads appear on-site on Walmart's site. Off-site display is where you get to expose your customers across the internet, wherever they may be shopping, browsing, looking at ESPN, looking at Sports Center, whatever they're doing online. You can kind of follow them around with those ad units to try and make sure that you're staying top of mind. The typical, I shouldn't say typical, but on the average breakdown of ad spend that we see kind of across the industry, you see below. So the majority of the ad spend that people are funneling, or brands are funneling through Walmart, is going towards sponsored products. And when I say sponsored products, I mean the group of sponsored product ads that we'll walk through, which makes sense. These ads tend to be what we call bottom of the funnel. They're there to capture demand that people already have. Therefore, they tend to have a higher ROAS, at least a higher last click ROAS. So they look better. So people tend to allocate more of their budget towards them. On-site display sitting at 26%, kind of middle of the funnel. You're still attracting people that are coming to Walmart's marketplace to buy something, but it's a little bit more of a general exposure. Off-site display, these are our top of the funnel ads. You're usually not getting a great last click ROAS from these types of ads. I don't say that to imply that they're not worth it. They can be, especially when it comes to demand generation. And they do tend to improve the performance of other lower funnel ad units because you're creating that demand. So it's just important to know kind of where these ads sit in your overall strategy and to think about what KPIs you're using to measure them. Walmart likes to come, I'm sure you guys have seen this. Walmart likes to come in and say, hey, look at our display campaigns. They had a $50 ROAS. It's like, well, not really, but they're kind of misrepresenting the value of that ad unit. So it's important to think about how we measure those two. So moving on, what are Walmart sponsored products? Now here I'm talking about the specific ad unit, not the general bucket. So a sponsored product ad is a search-based ad, and it's pulling from your product content. And so you don't necessarily create any creative for this. You're not writing an ad. You're just selecting the product that you want to bid on, and you're selecting the search term or the keyword that you want the product to appear for. These ads typically show at the top of the SERP, number one retail media ad unit in terms of volume and budget allocation, not necessarily in terms of performance. It depends on how you're measuring it, although they do tend to have a strong ROAS because you can dial in exactly what keywords you're appearing for, what the bid is on those search terms. You get a lot of control over how these ads perform if you're managing them correctly. Like the stat says, 70% of purchases come for page one of search results. Like Ricky Bobby once said, if you're not first, you're last. If you're not showing up kind of on the first page, you're not really anywhere. And so there's a lot of other places that these ads can show. But when we're talking specifically about the SERP, the top of the SERP is going to, and specifically page one, is going to garner the vast majority of the volume. These ads can sit, we think of these ads as kind of demand capture ads because customers are coming here with existing demand. They're searching for a product like this customer here, searching for coffee. It's a pretty general search, but they obviously want coffee. And so you're trying to capture their demand with this type of ad unit by showing up high. Moving on to the next one here. This is also within the sponsored products ad suite, but this is called a sponsored brand ad. This one's a little bit of a hybrid between a sponsored products ad where you're just kind of picking a product and a keyword and you're not designing anything really. It's a little bit of a hybrid between that and kind of a display ad where you do get to control some of the creative. So with sponsored brand ads, you do get the option to add in your logo. You can add in some custom content into that design and some custom verbiage into that design as long as it's within TOS. And so you get a little bit more customization. You also get to choose multiple products to display here. You're not limited to just one product that's appearing within the SERP. We see a screenshot here of how this might appear on a phone, on a mobile device. And so you kind of see it above the search results pretty prominently. It appears in a similar way on desktop, where it's pretty obvious that this ad is kind of above the normal SERP. And so when a customer is doing a search, they'll see the normal carousel of products down below, but then they'll see this kind of ad up above. And so it's also something that we would consider a demand capture ad because, again, this is keyword based. You're waiting for someone to do a search for something that they want before this ad will appear. So clearly they already have some sort of demand. They're coming to the marketplace to do something, probably to buy. And so we want to capture that demand. But this is also a great way to expose potential customers or your own customers, if they're searching for your brand, to multiple products within your catalog. And so sometimes we'll use this ad unit as a type of cross-sell ad unit. And so you see this brand Hangry, which I'm a fan of the name. They're showing up for the term cat food. Now, I'm making an assumption here because we don't work with this brand directly, but let's say for the sake of argument that first product there might be their number one cat food. They might be showing another one that they just released alongside it, or vice versa. They might be showing another one that they want to push to try and expose customers to multiple types of cat food that they might have. And so it can be a good cross-sell technique. This can also be a good opportunity to drive people to your brand store, which we'll get into in a couple slides. The other thing that I'll call out here that we included on the slide, 30% higher conversion rate for sponsored products when used together with sponsored brands. It's very tempting for marketers, advertisers, brands to look at ads in a silo and say, well, this one's got a higher ROAS, last click ROAS than that one. I'm going to put more money in there. It's not necessarily a bad approach, but one thing that you also want to pay attention to is how does the overall portfolio perform when you start having these ad units work together? And that's one of the things that Amazon's Marketing Cloud is much more advanced at. Walmart Centella is getting there. They're not necessarily there yet in terms of fully measuring all of that, collaboration between the ad units. But what we do tend to see is that when we can effectively cover a SERP with a high quality sponsored brand ad that is exposing the customer to more products, when we're there with a sponsored products ad that is relevant to that specific query, both ad units tend to perform better. And specifically the sponsored products ads tend to do a better job of capturing demand when the sponsored brand ad is also present. And so those ad units can work together for your benefit as well. I shouldn't say the last, but the other kind of main ad unit that falls under Walmart's sponsored products umbrella, sponsored video. Video, regardless of platform, Walmart, Amazon, Target, anywhere that you can add videos to your ad assets, whether it's on site or through offsite display, videos tend to perform way better. Higher click-through rates, they tend to have better conversion rates. Customers just stay engaged with videos. It can't be too long. Usually, in an ad unit, you're shooting for maybe 15 seconds, 15, 20 seconds. 30 is probably at the upper limit. People are goldfish. We got short attention spans. So if we're scrolling through trying to buy something, I'm not going to sit and watch for a full minute. But a short, effective video asset can be highly effective. And so one of the things that we also tend to see with video ads is that they do a great job of attracting what we call new to brand customers. So people that haven't bought from your brand before, they tend to get converted at a higher rate when you have video assets available. And so these sponsor videos are things that we have the opportunity to show, again, above the SERP, kind of in the same location as a sponsored brand ad. It's usually in the same type of bidding section as well. And they can really improve the overall performance, not just of that ad unit, but like I said on the previous slide with other sponsor brand ads, the exposure and the awareness that you drive with these types of video assets will also improve the performance of your sponsored products ads. It can also create a lift in the amount of branded searches that you get for your brand, meaning someone sees a video, they like it, maybe they're not ready to buy right in that moment, but they come back later that day or later that week. They're searching directly for your brand because they remembered it. That's kind of the holy grail of advertising, is to get them to just remember your brand and look for that. And so we do tend to see video ads being effective in that regard. Like I said, there's a number of other places that these ads can appear. And so when it comes to the SERP, if you're not first, you're last. If you're not on the first page, you're probably not getting found. But there are a lot of other places outside of the SERP. And when I say SERP, I mean search engine results page. Just the page that shows when you do a search. There are a lot of other places outside of the SERP that these ads can appear that are still effective. So product carousel, that's the obvious one, that is on the search page. But these can also appear in, alongside the buy box when a customer goes to a detail page, or underneath it. They can search in, or they can appear in specific, kind of item grids that are outside of the normal SERP. And so as Walmart's capabilities enhance, your capabilities to actually bid on specific placements will improve as well. They're kind of following Amazon's playbook in that regard. And so as those abilities come out, you definitely want to make sure that you're experimenting with placement modifiers and how well you're bidding on certain placements. But there are other places outside of the SERP that these ads can add a lot of value and can serve as a way to help poach customers from your competitors, especially if you're showing up kind of on their detail pages and against their buy boxes. Cool. So that was kind of an overview of the different sponsored products type ads, or the suite of ads that Walmart calls sponsored products, one of them being a sponsored product ad, which again, I know is a little confusing. Those are the ads that are cost per click based. So you're only paying when someone clicks on your ad. The display ads are a little bit different, and in that you're targeting a group of customers. You might be targeting people that are coming to a specific page. You might be targeting a specific audience or group of people based on their characteristics. And so the targeting for these ads is a little bit different. It's also, and because of that, again, the last click ROAS can sometimes not be as strong because the purpose of these ads is not necessarily to capture the demand when someone does a search. It's to be present and top of mind for the customer so that they see your brand and think of your brand when they come back later to do a search. And so for that reason, we consider these kind of mid to upper funnel. They're not the first thing that you're going to invest in. You want to make sure that you're investing in the bottom of the funnel first and plugging any holes in that funnel. But as you start to plateau this is another great way to kind of build demand, so that you can kind of overcome any sort of advertising plateau you might have reached. And so these ads can appear, they'll appear on site, they can appear on category pages, they can appear on SERP pages. And you're going to try and target specific customers that you want to reach. We do see, we have seen a pretty sizable growth in ad spend in these types of ad units from advertisers in recent quarters on on-site display. These also tend to have better conversion rates and better engagement than off-site display. And part of the reason is because you're still reaching customers that are coming to a marketplace to do something, presumably to buy something, as opposed to trying to follow customers around the internet to stay top of mind.
Yeah, I just want to make it really painfully clear. Like the big difference between search products and display, search is going to be based off of keywords. Display is going to be based off of audiences or their behavior of what they've searched for or cart abandoners. So we're able to retarget within display.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Cool. So moving on to another type of on-site display ad unit. This one is called just the homepage gallery. So this is where you can show up on Walmart's homepage. Now we're showing you different options, not necessarily recommending that you do all of these or that all of these are right for your brand. Showing up on Walmart's homepage might be kind of the most general placement that you can get, but it is an option and can do a great job of driving awareness. Now, if you're relatively new to on-site display, or you kind of feel like you've reached a plateau in your search campaigns and your sponsored products campaigns, and you're looking to build visibility, this might not necessarily be the first place that I start. You can start at a more granular level by picking out, very specific audiences that you want to reach by maybe, like Sean said, retargeting customers that have already added your products to their cart, that might have seen your PDPs. And so, specifically targeting those high intent, high value niche consumer groups might be a better place to start. But again, as you start to plateau in other areas, these are options that you have to, continue to build awareness. So, like I said, this is one opportunity that you have to engage in an on-site display ad on Walmart's homepage. Some others that are a little bit more targeted, like we mentioned, category takeovers are an option. This is something where you're actually reaching customers that are at least in a specific category. They're not on Walmart's homepage, and so presumably a little bit more targeted. The other thing that I like to call out here that sometimes gets neglected by a lot of brands is the brand page. Now, brand pages can be hard to find for consumers. It's kind of a small click on the brand name from a PDP. It's not necessarily natural to find it, but you can advertise them using sponsored brand ads. You can drive people to that page, and so using different ad units, you can get people there, and a quality brand page can do a really good job of exposing customers to other products in your brand, exposing customers to your brand voice and messaging. It's really the only place on any retail marketplace where you kind of get more control over the imagery, over the messaging, over just how your brand is displayed. On the PDP, for example, Walmart is deciding exactly how that PDP is going to show up. You can put your own product images, obviously, but and content, but outside of that, that's Walmart's page. This is where you get the opportunity to really express your brand's voice, and to showcase your entire catalog and to divide that up into an easily kind of shoppable way. So you can kind of think of this as, almost creating your own section within a Walmart store that only features your brand. And so well done brand pages can do a great job of cross-selling customers. They can do a great job of improving customer retention as well, by giving the customer more options. And aside from maybe a nominal fee to create it, it's pretty inexpensive. So it's kind of a no-brainer to get these done and set up. And so these are other opportunities that you have with Walmart's display suite, but also specifically with the brand page to advertise this with display, but also potentially some sponsored products ads as well, to drive people there. Cool. So all of the retail, I shouldn't say all, but all the major retail platforms, Walmart included, they offer offsite display options as well. Now, this is what we would consider more kind of top of the funnel. And so we recommend that you get your demand capture ad units really optimized and dialed in first. So that's your kind of lower funnel sponsored products, your long tail search terms for sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored video. Those are going to be the ads where you're capturing all of the demand that you might create. These, once you plateau in those areas and it's time for you to build more awareness and generate more demand, this can be a great opportunity for you. Now, one of the, I'm sure some of you have had this experience where Walmart has come to pitch you a massive, kind of 6-figure package on how to expand into Walmart display. Some brands that might be the right thing to do. But if you're new to display and you haven't done it before, you don't necessarily have to go spend $250,000 on all the cool stuff that they might be doing. Even with offsite display, you can still get very specific with the audiences that you're targeting. And so when we talk about retargeting customers who have purchased from you to try and get them to come back, especially in the CPG space where these items are replenishable, we might be targeting consumers who have added to cart or viewed your PDP but haven't converted yet. Those are also customers, regardless of category, that are going to be more likely to convert than just your average consumer. And those are areas, those are two specific audiences where you can get started targeting customers offsite through offsite display programs that aren't going to eat up a massive chunk of your budget. Now, it's relative, obviously, but those are great ways to kind of prove it out that will likely have a very strong direct ROI for you. And you can kind of grow from there. And so we have seen a large amount of growth in offsite displays, like we're saying here. 42% growth in ad spend. It is outpacing on-site display ad spend. Part of that is because it's just newer than some of these other ad units, and so the year-over-year growth rates are going to be higher. But if done carefully and in a targeted way, these can be really high-performing ad units for you as well. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to start big. You can start small. Find the audiences that work and lean into those, pare back on the ones that don't, and kind of scale up from there. Sure, some of you are aware, Walmart also, well, it's not that recent anymore, but they acquired Vizio. And part of the reason that they acquired Vizio was to gain access to that CTV network. And so this is one of the areas in which they made an acquisition partly to help them compete with Amazon and Amazon's, kind of Fire CTV options. And so this is a great way to reach customers on the biggest screen in the house. And we see a lot of awareness built through CTV ads. This is going to be another area where, again, you're not likely to see the best last click ROAS. And so you want to make sure your demand capture ad units are all working really well together. But we have seen brands that have engaged in CTV drive a lot of awareness and specifically see a large increase in branded search volume after running these campaigns, because customers see them, they then are on their phone probably while they're watching TV, or they come back later. They might just be searching for your brand. And so it's important to make sure that those ad units are there to capture that demand. But this can be a great way to build awareness. And we do see this have a really positive impact on the performance of your lower funnel ad units and on total branded search volume as well. And last thing I'll highlight here, obviously audio ads, gaming ads are kind of up and coming. Gaming, I would say, is kind of the hotter topic in recent years, especially with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And so being able to reach consumers and especially younger consumers where they're active can be really important. I would also say, don't assume that you have to have a product that is like specifically geared towards gaming in order to take advantage of these types of ad units. Saw, one of you answer the question that you're in the snacks category. Gamers like snacks too. And so this could be a great way to kind of expose potential customers to your brand. They also respond well to just kind of fun, kitschy types of engagements. And so the more humor you can inject into those types of ad units and those types of campaigns, the better they tend to do.
Based on all the ad products that Jeff just walked through, and especially towards the end there with display and offsite and CTV and audio and gaming, think of those as audiences. What we see a lot of brands do is you'll see some, after you do some work on your search products, you will start to get to a point where your ROAS will plateau. And as you start to plateau that out, then you're starting to figure out but my sales aren't increasing anymore. How do I grow more business? And that's why we talk about demand capture. Because you're optimizing an audience that is living within or coming to Walmart or to whatever retailer you're working with. How do we find more audiences? How do we drive so more sales come from introducing your product and getting in front of more audiences to drive that traffic? And these start to become different ways and tools to find incremental audiences to drive incremental sales. And so we're always looking at, those ways to drive that. Jeff talked about ROAS being last touch, and that's not, we don't believe that's the best metric, and we'll talk about measurement later. But we're looking for top line revenue and incrementality. How are your dollars driving an incremental sale? Whether that be new to brand, that could be through incremental purchase frequency, increased basket. There's a lot of ways to get there, but when you look at ROAS, a lot of times that's capturing those audiences that were already coming there. We want to optimize that. We want to convert them, but you also want to find these other audiences to drive transactions.
Well said. And
sorry, my mouse is, there we go. Sorry.
No worries. No, just the last thing. And again, we'll share things out kind of after the presentation. Walmart's got a bunch of certifications. Sometimes we kind of roll our eyes at this stuff. They're pretty useful. So especially if you're maybe just kind of starting out or looking to kind of take advantage of a new ad unit, go through the certification. It's they have some good training content in there on just kind of how to do it. Some decent best practices. Take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because they're just trying to get you to spend a lot of money, but they can be pretty educational. So I would say even if you think you know what you're doing, you haven't gone through these, might be worth a look. So check them out. All right, cool. So we're going to get into what do you actually do with all these ads and how should you kind of bid on these? So I have I think two more slides, one real slide, and then I'll turn it over to Kevin from Sky to kind of take you through some best practices there. But one thing I kind of wanted to set the stage with was just kind of how we approach account structure. There's different ways to do it, but this is kind of how we approach it. We want each when I'm building campaigns, I want each product or each product family to have, we call this one-to-one-to-one structure. And so we want doesn't have to be each product. So if you're selling t-shirts, the blue t-shirt and the red t-shirt don't need their own campaigns. The product family can live within, kind of one campaign, but we want them to have an automatic campaign and we want them to have multiple manual campaigns for different purposes. Ideally, the automatic campaigns for a mature ad account aren't taking up a majority of the ad spend, and that's going to vary by brand, but we kind of look at 20 to 30% as the rule of thumb there. But the automatic campaigns are important to identify search terms that you might have thought of, identify product targets that you might not have thought of, and to have those going on a continuous basis so that you're ever present on Walmart's platform, regardless of what customers are searching for. We then do what's called keyword harvesting. So we'll harvest the high performing ones or the really low performing ones that we want to bid down on into their own manual campaigns where I can specifically control not just the bid, but also my budget pacing, my time of day modifications, different aspects of how I'm optimizing what I'm spending and where I'm spending. We want to pull those into manual campaigns so we have a lot more control over exactly what we're paying for those keywords, exactly what product is showing up for each search term. And we like to separate those into called category keywords, which are basically non-branded. So in the coffee example we showed earlier, coffee is a general category keyword. Or you might do Arabica coffee or Java, things like that. Things where your brand or your product name are not included. Those are going to be how we acquire new customers. We also want to make sure we're defending not just your brand term, but also your individual product terms with manual branded campaigns for each product family. This is also where we get to control exactly which products are showing up when customers are searching just more generally for your brand name or things like that. And so we have a lot more control over these types of ad units. The other thing that we can do, because we leverage technology like Sky, is we can set up these campaigns in such a way that they're working together, so that the technology is automatically identifying keywords to pull into the manual campaigns. It's automatically identifying when bids and budgets need to be adjusted, and these manual campaigns kind of get built over time on an automated basis if we've set up the structure properly so that these campaigns can work together. And so this is a little bit about how we think about how to set up an ad account. So on our next one, I think this might be fairly straightforward, but if it's just one kind of ad unit, it's pretty easy to just kind of manage on your own. These retailers are getting a lot more complex. We've seen half of brands have already started kind of leveraging technology, and I'm actually a little bit surprised that's not higher, but I know a lot of people like to do it on their own. But as Kevin's going to take you through, there's a lot of benefits to automation as well. So
Yeah.
I will turn it over to Kevin.
Well, thanks, Jeff, Sean, and everyone. So yeah, I'm from Sky. Just in case you're not familiar, we have a little over 9 billion in ad spend that flows through our platform every year. We're one of the leading partners for Walmart Connect. Our clients are outperforming the market. So if you look at the CAGR, like the growth rate of brands that are spending, we're doubling that. So high double-digit growth in terms of what our clients are seeing versus the market, and this is being validated by Walmart Connect themselves as well. So pretty powerful stuff. I'm going to walk you through a few things to try to build on what you've heard already, and we're going to start with this funnel kind of analogy. Walmart Connect has strong advertising products for each phase of that shopping journey. And in terms of where they map to, right, you have offsite display, onsite display, kind of upper and mid funnel. You have onsite sponsored, it's typically lower funnel, and then remarketing is more of like the ultimate bottom of the funnel. Some folks would say, hey, the funnel has collapsed. I think if you're in a fast moving consumer category, if you read an article on Ad Exchanger, you saw Google basically said that the funnel has collapsed. It's like searching, browsing, shopping, it's all kind of happened fluidly. But in terms of like thinking about it as a marketer, this is kind of an easy way to contextualize that. So I wanted to start here because we integrate with like for full campaign management for onsite display and onsite sponsored, we have reporting only for offsite display in our platform. So I'm going to give you some just different perspective from the way that we work with Walmart Connect. Go to the next slide here. We want to break down some of the complexity. This has already been thematic, and I think you've gotten some great content thus far. We have an auction model, right? So how you buy the media, which would be a cost per 1,000 impression or a cost per click. You have goal-based publisher bidding. I'm going to explain that a little bit more, but you see the text there is like you can input your goals, and then the publisher, in this case, it's like Walmart Connect or the trade desk, which powers its offsite display, will essentially optimize for that. You also have optimization levers, which are the things that you can do to get better performance. And those range from low to medium to high. and then spend as a percentage of total, which I think you saw earlier based on the normal retail media network trends. You see that on-site sponsored is the highest. And if you click to trigger the animation, the optimization levers for on-site sponsored are the highest. And there are also limited options from Walmart Connect on the on-site sponsored. So this kind of causes us or forces us to talk about what you can do with the biggest percentage of your media. And I think if you're a supplier, if you're a seller, if you're operating like with maturity, like at scale, those percentages are going to vary. We actually see on-site sponsors is actually a higher percentage of the budget for the average seller or supplier on Walmart than just 62%. But it kind of should give you an idea of like why with the next slides in our section here, we're going to focus on on-site sponsored. Okay. So when we break down the bid optimization methods, there's really 4 ways to optimize your bids. Right? The keyword bid, or the bid price that you use for this this type of advertising, is a cost per click. And so you bid how much you want to pay for that click, and then everything kind of cascades from there. So on the left, which is we've attempted to use like a Walmart type of color here. It may be a little bit off, but is goal-based publisher bidding. This is a newly introduced thing. Walmart Connect recently opened this up for automatic campaigns where you can input a ROAS goal, but it's had really mixed reactions from the market. It's not like a Google Smart Bidding or some of the other goal-based bidders, like an Instacart optimized bidding, where we are hearing and seeing that it's hitting the mark. So this is something that's, again, very limited today and not seeing the best traction yet. Now that's going to evolve, it's going to progress, but that's kind of the first type of way to optimize your bids, is just let the publisher do it. Walmart Connect here being the publisher. The next is rule-based bidding. And you see this kind of gradient here because Walmart does have some very remedial rule-based settings, and other retail media networks have this too. They're just like very nascent, not good. You really don't want to use them. We provide customizable rule-based automated actions for any of the actions that you would want to take, like your bids, also your budget statuses, other things that allow you to take action at scale by using filters and if-then and rule trees. So that's kind of rule-based bidding, the next way to optimize. The third one is goal-based portfolios, and the fourth one is Sky Budget Navigator. And this is where we're using machine learning to optimize bids and budgets to hit your targets. You get a KPI target or a budget target. You can get a lot of sophistication. So we wanted to break this down kind of at this high level, and then go into some of the things that make us special and taking advantage of technology like machine learning, since there isn't a goal-based publisher bidding from Walmart Connect. Hopefully that all tracks. Jeff or Sean, feel free to kind of chime in if there's anything that I'm talking too fast or need to unpack further.
One thing I would add is not to add, it's just to give context. Look, there's not a lot of automation available on the retailer-owned platforms when you're using self-serve. That's why using a partner like Sky or we highly recommend technology, period,
Likewise.
to help with automation, to help with the scale of it, because there's things that you can do here that require so many manual things on your own if you're doing self-serve that you'll never be optimized in the way you should be.
Yep. Amen. I totally endorse that. Obviously, I'm biased being at Sky, but I think that 50% number, like Jeff, you threw up there earlier, is like, I find that shocking too, because like you're literally just like scoffing at performance gains. And so here's how our machine learning bid optimization works. We've been doing this for nearly 20 years. Started in 2006, and we work with, the world's most sophisticated advertisers. One of the things that I think stands out here in our tech is that we have a patented keyword clustering model that we developed along that journey of 20 years. And this allows for our predictive analytics to work even for long tail campaigns, even for smaller budgets. This is one of the biggest challenges with machine learning, is you need a lot of data. And if you're only spending a smaller amount, the benefits of that machine learning don't apply to you. You can't really take advantage of them. That's not really the case with Sky. Certainly, there's going to be cases where there's not enough to really run those forecast models. And in that case, we're going to have a budget target where you're just spending and hitting that goal, as opposed to a more sophisticated KPI goal. Key performance indicator being like ROAS or ACOS or cost per acquisition, things like that. The second bullet, where we talk about efficiency, every single keyword and every single campaign and ad group, anywhere there's a bid, we're using machine learning to identify the optimal bid price to hit your targets. And we're considering all the different settings that impact that. There are device adjustments, there's placement adjustments, there's targeting, there's all these different factors that it's just impossible for a human to contemplate all of those. This is how we're able to improve efficiency, is every single day we're running these models to identify optimal bid price to hit your goals. We can forecast before you execute. So you have high confidence. We're essentially working off of a P90 model. And then multifaceted strategies. We have this data science rigor that we've built over the years so that you can use this in harmony with other things that Bird Dog is going to harness, like day parting and harvesting and some other stuff. I'll flash some slides around in just a bit here. So this is how we approach it. We think it's best in class. We are biased, but hopefully the takeaway again is that technology like machine learning is going to be better than just doing rules. All right, go to the next slide. Again, a little bias here. I guess you'd expect that, but we do support all of the optimization levers. We truly believe, and we've seen this from experience, there isn't a one size fits all. A grocery, CPG brand does not need the same approach that an apparel brand or a consumer electronics brand. An SMB or an emerging brand does not need the same as what enterprise needs. And so all of our solutions are modular. We support all the ad types for sponsored and on-site display. We have day parting, rules-based, multi-level actions. We have a beta that's rolling out for placement modifiers that's using AI to determine and recommend the optimal settings for that. And then, of course, the machine learning optimization for bid and budget to hit those targets. So we support all of those. And it's the way that the users will instrument our technology that makes the difference. And I think in that sense, love the work, the background, the approach that Sean, Jeff, and the team take. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today, with our logos right next to each other, endorsing them. Yeah. So if you go to the next slide, this is a little bit of a closer look, so you don't have to squint as hard on what our automated actions and alerts do. You can take simple actions like an if-then. You can take advanced actions, which is a rule tree. So it can look at different filter criteria and make changes or take different actions all within the same rule. And this is obviously very powerful because we have all these different ways to look at collective conditions, multi-entity actions where you can pause campaigns that have products with low weeks of coverage, and really making your program very retail aware, very marketplace aware. So all of that is extremely extensible within our platform. The next one is the keyword harvesting. And in this case, what we're doing is we're leveraging more automation. There are many reasons why that one-to-one-to-one-to-one strategy that Jeff described should be in place. The one that I want to call out here is that automatic targeting allows for more placements within the Walmart shopping experience. And when there's keywords that are getting clicked on and converting, you want to migrate those, essentially move them, harvest them to an ad group, a place where you can control that with more granular settings. So with our automated keyword harvesting, you can define those conditions, harvest them to the destination where then you can use our machine learning optimization to find the optimal bid on where you should set that. And this is another thing that people used to do with spreadsheets. Now they do it with these API-powered features. So this is the next one that's I wanted to call out. And if I'm skimming over the Q&A or any other things, again, like Jeff, Sean, just jump in. Day parting is the next one. It's a real phenomenon, but the retailers, right, they want you to spend 24 hours a day. And that's what your campaigns will do unless you do something differently. Now, if you've ever bought anything and you've actually been a shopper, which I know we all have, that's why it's a little bit rhetorical, but is you don't typically go into the store right at 2 in the morning. You don't typically buy certain types of products at 3 a.m. or even like 11 p.m. There are certain buying behaviors where you're going to shop or you're going to have a higher propensity to convert during certain times. And this allows you to take advantage of that, which again, if you were a robot and you could have, Walmart Connect open all day and say, okay, I'm going to increase my bids because it's 6 a.m. now and shopping is increasing. And then at 10 p.m. you're still logged in and you're going to reduce the bids. Like, wow, that's amazing. But you could just use automation to do it. That's really what our technology does. And it allows you to be more efficient with the same dollars just by spending them and optimizing them throughout the day.
Hey, so Kevin, we do have a question. I was waiting for this slide to kind of help answer it. So Nicolo, he's asking, hey, agrees with what we're talking about, but paying 2% for advertising spend on any partner like you guys or PackView, is it really worth it? For that same 2%, he feels like he can get certain media buyers on hand to do the heavy lifting 24/7 with native platforms. My quick response is it's tech like this right here that doesn't exist within those native platforms that you're going to have to do on an every minute of the day basis to try to activate. What we're trying to get to is, let's say, well, how can you do this and hire one media buyer, not by hire two? How do you leverage technology so that you're focused more on strategy than the execution? We find that most clients, if you're doing things in-house, which is great, you're either good at the strategy or you're good at the hands-on key. But even if you're good at the hands-on key, you be able to optimize to make the most of your budget to be as efficient as you possibly can is to leverage technology. This is just one aspect of it. There are dozens of others, and particularly if we start talking about where AMC on Amazon is, or with Centella, where it's coming, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Having the ability to integrate those aren't going to be native on their self-serve platforms. Um,
Yeah.
Everybody's different. If you want to do it on your own, we're not going to challenge you. That's awesome if it's working. But like when you really want to get to higher plateaus, we would recommend this. Sorry, Kevin.
For sure. No, you're good. I love the question. And I think like we have done head to heads. Like that would be a fun one if that's, something that you want to follow through on. I think the next slide though, actually, we've got a proven track record of case studies. And I think two things you can take away. One is there's more than one way, to skin this cat, to do these sorts of things. And so if you're not doing them, like hopefully the takeaway is like, oh, we should do this because it leads to lift. It leads to better efficiency. And we're going to segue in the next section in just a moment here around measurement and start to broach the topic of incrementality. But these case studies here, some of them, again, are using machine learning where you can't really outsource that or the types of analysis that are built over 20 years. So, I just put that out there, but the case studies, you can look at a bunch of them. We've got case studies on Walmart Connect on our site. So, proven track record there. But I love the thought of like, how do we do things as efficiently as possible? And of course, your response as well, Sean, which is like, take this and run with it. It's not like you have to come out of here and say, hey, I'm going to sign up for Sky.
Look, every client, every brand out there has unique needs. Whether you want to build things in-house, use your own tech, use your own people, outsource it. I think that equation is about figuring that out what works for you. And look, we're just making sure that everybody here understands what the platforms are, and what advantages you can have or not have by leveraging some of them.
Awesome. All right. I think if I'm not mistaken, we're going to segue into this next section here. I can kind of tee it up unless Jeff or Sean, you wanted to share a few things here.
All you.
All right. So talked about the structure of ads and I think measuring success from on-site sponsored, on-site display, off-site display. We kind of thought we'd start with the same way that we started the previous section. We've added the little bracket and the different ways to measure. We added at the bottom of the funnel because ultimately what y'all are trying to do is drive sales, trying to drive contribution profit. And there's different ways to measure success. I'm going to try to zoom in like I did before on the on-site sponsored a little bit, but I'm going to try to illustrate. If you trigger the animation here, Jeff, you'll see that the three areas that we lit up are first-party measurement, retailer marketplace analytics, and publisher attribution. These are really the three ways, to look at the measurement of your ads and the impact that's having on sales or profit or profit. So on the left, we've kind of flipped the order here. First party measurement, that's stuff that you bring to bear. Okay, it's your choice if you bring on a solution provider like a BirdDog and subsequently Sky, or other solution providers like BirdDog and subsequently an MMM, or your own P&L data, really like anything that you're kind of looking at that you own the data or that you're owning the decision to add that measurement. That's what that first one is on the left. So obviously we want you to use Sky because there's a lot of stuff that we do, and I'm going to unpack that. In the middle, you have retail or marketplace analytics if you're a seller, but essentially like the retail and analytics. And largely, this is, I think, increasingly showing up as Centella, but there are many different reports and tools, and ads, of course, are expected to drive that. So you want to measure success in terms of your total retail or your total marketplace. And some of this is made available to you through API that we can ingest and make seamlessly available in our platform. Others, like publisher attribution, this is kind of the table stakes of like understanding how ads measurement works. So I'm trying to be as basic and kind of fundamental as possible here. Is that Walmart Connect, like every other retail media network or publisher out there, they provide attribution for each of their ad products. So you have the look back window of when was there an impression or a click, and then when was there a purchase or some type of consideration event like an add to cart. There's different columns. So did somebody buy online? Did they buy in store? Did they buy online but pick up in store? And those different buying modalities. You can assign credit to an ad based on whether there was an impression or a click. And as always the case, there's deduplication, meaning if somebody saw an offsite display ad, saw an onsite display ad, clicked on a sponsored ad, there's some of that deduplication that's happening behind the scenes to give you reporting so that they're not over attributing the impact of your ads. But those are kind of the three ways. And of course, we ingest those at Sky. But I think where Walmart Connect struggles is going from the publisher attribution all the way to first party. It's not a very flexible system, right? You can't like input some of your own stuff there, much less would you want to. Like, would you want to put your profit in there? Probably not. So if you go to the next slide, that should explain why we have an extensible platform. We have everything customizable. They extend through all of the features, meaning those same machine learning optimization and keyword harvesting and stuff. All of the tagging and labeling is extensible, and all of the optimization methodologies that you can work with, the optimization levers, those can show up in our dashboards and some presentations and stuff. Couple of the call outs that I want to make in here that I'm going to go into a little bit further is competitive insights and keyword iROAS. So I'm going to like unpack those. But once again, like we've got kind of those main boxes checked in terms of what we offer as it relates to measurement and reporting, which is a key piece of this, because you're going to take those insights, you're going to take action against those insights, and you want to be able to visualize and tag and all that stuff. So if you go to the next slide, competitive insights. This is something that Walmart Connect and a lot of other retailers do not provide, which is the scraped data. Okay, the scraped data allows you to identify who you're competing against. So for a given keyword that you're advertising against, who are you up against, and how is your share of voice against the paid, the organic, and the total? How is that trending over time? You might find that there's certain competitors that are beating you. And if you want to become a category captain, or if you want to grow your sales or your profit, you need to leapfrog them. And so what's contributing to that? The pricing, any badges. We are looking at a couple of different like views in the GIF here. But of course, we support this for more than just Walmart. But this is really, really powerful. If you go to the next slide, not only do we visualize the data, but we make it actionable. One of the most actionable things that we do with this scrape data is you can see how you're overlapping between your paid results and your organic results. Oftentimes, the the sales that are occurring through those paid results, when you had an organic result right there, they probably would have happened anyway. We call this a lot of times cannibalization. And so we allow the same automated actions that you can action against your brand overlap, your product overlap, top of search. And so you can really get better and better efficiency of what's truly driving incrementality. This is only possible with the scrape data. The next one here is around, the keyword aisle. So there's a share that's available and you can visualize that. That's great. But we want you to be able to action on it too. So here you can take this other scrape data that we calculate and weight for you, and then adjust your bids or budgets to not just see the insight, but to act on it. And the next one is all of this will flow into different dashboards, all of like customizable stuff, so you can see it all in one place. It just makes life a lot easier than having to bounce between platforms, reports, which is what you're tasked with if you don't work with a solution provider like a Sky. Okay, incrementality. I'm going to try to cycle through a few things here. I love this topic for a lot of reasons, and I think it's one of the most popular themes in retail media. So when we talk about measuring success, we can't really do that without bringing up incrementality. And fortunately, we have like a very clear definition. If you trigger the animation and you don't feel like reading and listening at the same time, what we're talking about with retail media incrementality is the potential causal impact of your ads and its linkage to outcomes like sales. Potential causal impact and the linkage to outcomes like sales. All right. We actually have a state of retail media report that we do. I think we just did our 4th installment of that. If you go to the next slide, we're going to take a look at some of the questions that we asked to kind of frame this. And what we found in this survey, if you can scan the QR code and get that if you want. I think it's an amazing report. This is just one of the lenses within there that we asked about. It's brands like you and different stakeholder levels, is that the market is getting better in terms of proficiency at measuring incrementality for the retail media. I like to think it's because we're doing events like this and we're doing like webinars, and you've got smart folks out there that are taking advantage of the data and doing this better and better. But there's still a lot of the market that are doing this at a basic level or don't even measure it, or they're good instead of extremely good. If you go to the next slide.
Can I just pause real quick, Kevin? So just if everybody, we will have a link also in addition to this QR code for the report at the end of this section. And also just later on how we look at incrementality. So yeah, to your point, it is causal. The way we look at it is the media we ran, are you getting a transaction today that you wouldn't have gotten yesterday without that media run, right? Because it's not just the causal impact of, because that's going to give us some ROAS. It's that step further. And is it from, is it new to brand? Is it from, we talked about this earlier, new to brand, more frequency, more purchase, more, the sign for subscription, how do we get them to act on something more or greater? I'm seeing some of the chat, the QR code's not working. I have a link at the back of this deck that we'll pull that up, or I'll actually just pull that through and we'll drop it in the chat here as well.
Thanks for the heads up there, and yeah, good good added context of this. I think one of the reasons why it's hard to measure incrementality, why not everybody is extremely good, is because it means something different to everyone. If you go to the next slide, you see that there are some themes that are more common than others. Like, for example, a new to brand customer. If you get a sale from a new to brand customer, a lot of people would agree that's incremental. Not everybody. Like if your look back window, because you sell TVs or a higher ticket item, means that the new to brand should go 3 or 5 years back, it's not a very good way to measure incrementality for you. A lot of people would agree that serving ads where you're not already showing up organically is incremental, but not everybody perceives it that way. Competitor PDP, like serving an ad there, that's incremental. But it starts to get into the subjective level very quickly, as you can see from the percentages about when we ask, how does your organization define incrementality? And so this is one of the places where I think BirdDog and the way that they approach this holistically and the depth that they go within Walmart Connect, I think can really accelerate the complexity of this. The next slide here will explain some of the challenges that folks face. That is like nobody has kind of the magic wand. Like we're all dealing with a retailer that is a walled garden and doesn't share all the data with us, doesn't have all the controls where we can do holdout testing and control for contamination, stuff that we can do when we're doing direct to consumer advertising, driving to a brand.com. And so concerns about the reliability, the extensibility of the measurement, the different targeting types, retailers, there's a lot of challenges. One of the things that I do think is really interesting from this year's study versus the previous 3 years is that there's a market uptick, 24%, 24 points up year over year of the costs associated with setting up experiments or test groups, and a downtrend in the lack of data. So what I think happened is that when people said that they were more proficient in measuring incrementality in retail media, thanks, Jeff. What they found is that one of the ways to address this is with testing, and you actually hold out ads, meaning like you don't run ads and you see the impact. That has a cost. All right, there's a cost of that, meaning not only are you holding out those ads, but you're holding out the sales that you would have gotten had you been running those ads, because those ads are getting a return on ad spend of 4, 5, 7x. I think that's kind of the average for Walmart Connect sponsored ads, and so it's very expensive to do that. And I think people are realizing that this isn't something that they can just solve with like one approach. So if you go to the next slide, I think our mindset on this is if you're looking for a silver bullet, it doesn't exist. We do think that there's a silver lining. As you'd imagine, we're going to have a different set of solutions for this, and we're going to recommend an ensemble approach, which I think BirdDog is very uniquely positioned in the space of all the folks that I work with. The agency that I managed in my past life, they're doing a really, really great job of looking at this in the holistic sense. So if you click on the next slide here, what we're hearing is that there are these indicators and key metrics that will help you better understand incrementality. And you can even calculate some of them, like incremental ROAS. There's the digital shelf, and what's actually showing up there through scrape data is a really important lens to measure this through. You can't just do it from the publisher attribution. You can't just do it from the retail and marketplace analytics. You need that digital shelf data to do this. And then lastly, it has to be comparative. So you need to optimize versus your own baselines. So establishing your own baseline of KPIs, but then also against the competition. And these are kind of the pillars that are trying to address this. And by working with solution providers that are taking advantage of technology, and by letting the ecosystem of retail media networks evolve, I do think we're going to get better and better at this, and we'll see those scores go up year over year. But hopefully you get sort of the flow there. One of the last ones that I wanted to leave you with in this section was on our approach to iROAS. So if you click on the next, we do have a generally available feature that calculates iROAS. We believe that this meets the market needs, which we kind of state, if you will, in these 3 different buckets, while also staying true to that same level of data science rigor that I harped on in the previous section. So our measurements are customizable, meaning they take the same tagging and like custom labeling that we have in our platform, so that you can use the frameworks and the approaches that Jeff and Sean take with your program and have the calculation work within that same way of organizing the business. It's very transparent. We show the model that we use. We have a white paper, actually, if you're a really technical buyer and you want to get into the weeds. This isn't just a black box saying, hey, trust us. We're doing a lot of regression here, and we're calculating the relationship, the correlation between different factors depending on your business. So that nuance I provided about new to brand, working for some brands but not for others, that's baked into the way we calculate this. And then the last one is it's actionable. So we bring to the keyword level, which is where the bids are managed, and it's actually scalable across more than just Walmart. So I think that's how we're approaching this, which is different than a lot of others out there, and it plays very nicely with the other things that are part of the ensemble approach that BirdDog is going to unpack, I think, later in this same session here. So once again, I'll just kind of hit on the track record of success, case studies that sort of underpin our approach to this is working. But yeah, I think that was my section. So thanks for hearing me talk fast. We covered a lot of ground, the questions, and again, sorry about the QR code. Yeah.
Well, they still got the link. Thanks, Kevin. And I think for everybody, well, we love Sky, but like we would just use tech. It's just going to help you like get started, self-serve, but find a way to help make your life a little bit easier and take the automation to what we're doing. Okay, so one more section in this chapter 2. I know we're dumping a lot on you, and trust me, there's a lot more of information about to hit you. But like with everything you've got, everything we talk you through from the digital shelf to the products to the technology to really, how do you actually then just plan for these peak moments? Because these are the when you make and break your year. So deal days is one of them, but that's not all of them, right? Walmart has tons of seasonal events and deal days that are happening throughout the year. So this is a snapshot of the core ones that are the focus for them as a company, what you need to plan around and be thinking about. And we're going to talk you through the phases and timing of what you do leading up to each of these windows. So from a standpoint, this is how I'm not going to say this is the benchmark for everybody to follow, but this is how most brands typically budget their dollars throughout the year. Because really that back half of the year with back to school, and particularly the holidays and Cyber 5, play a big make or break moment for them. But every category is a little different. Beauty's different, CPG and beverage is different. So it really depends on where you are. Are you a staple every day, or are you living off of these tentpole moments? Or are there opportunities to maximize sales during a deal days moment when there is a lot of traction and a lot of traffic and build around that? But these are just a guidepost to understand where do you fall versus some of these players as an average. So we're going to
Sean,
talk about in 3 phases. Sorry.
can I just jump in real quick on the tentpole thing on the previous slide? Something like deal days. We've worked with clients in the past that sometimes feel like they don't necessarily have a compelling offer for something like Walmart deal days or Amazon's Prime event or something similar. One thing to keep in mind, even if you don't necessarily feel like you're a brand that lends itself to that type of a tentpole moment, there's still a lot of traffic that's happening on the retail marketplaces during that time. And so it still would behoove you to have some sort of a strategy around that, even if you don't feel like it's an event that you're going to be participating in from like a deals and promotion standpoint. Like I said, there's still a lot of traffic happening, and so you still need to have a strategy around that. So,
Agreed. All right. So we're going to talk about those tentpole moments in 3 phases: the pre, the in-flight, and post. What do you do? So 4 to 6 weeks out, it's making sure, like the comment we heard earlier, something broke in my page and it's not right. Make sure that all of your PDP, your retail ready. You've got your shipping, you've got your inventory, everything is ready to go to take advantage of that moment, and that you have any of those negative things removed like ratings and reviews. It's align on the objectives. What are your KPIs? What are you looking to achieve during this? Are we looking for new to brand? Am I trying to retarget or capture audiences? Be very clear on what we're trying to do, and that helps drive where would you put your dollars in terms of a campaign from awareness to conversion at the bottom of the funnel. Have a strategy, leveraging their 1P data, like with category buyers or seasonal, being able to retarget, particularly display. Channel selection is a big deal, right? So where should you be spending? What part of the funnel? That gets back to those objectives and strategies of what we're trying to achieve. We've been talking about funnel a lot today, of understanding the roles it plays, particularly in this 4 to 6 weeks out. The awareness and consideration stages are going to be a little higher because you're trying to ramp up that awareness. So when we get to that week of the deal, because people are ramping up, getting ready for that, they're looking for the deals. They're looking and shopping, pre-shopping. And a lot of times from a conversion standpoint, what they're doing is they're putting it in their cart, but they're waiting. So how do we make sure that those 4 to 6 weeks out, yours is the one in the cart where they're waiting for those deals to happen when they turn on during that tent pole or during that deal day? And then lastly, creative. Make sure we're submitting if you're doing display or any CTV, that is out there typically 2 weeks out ahead of time. So we want to be a little more advanced. It's just they're busy, and we want to make sure that there are no gaps in terms of getting the uploads and getting it synced to the way it should be performing for you as we go through the campaign. So what do you do during in-flight? So this is, gets back to having tech in place. How are we making sure we're monitoring in real time as fast as we possibly can to where we're seeing better performance or poor performance, and we're moving dollars around to optimize those in real time. So we want to shift those dollars to those higher converting SKUs or audiences. Make sure that the right keywords are being driven. If we're seeing things not perform the way we want, everywhere that Jeff and I have been doing this, like this is game time. This is 24 hours. We're people aren't going on vacation. This is our moment to work with our clients to drive their sales, and we got to deliver here. And so it's the same we would tell for our clients. We got to be on, always on, ready to solve for the issues and the optimizations in real time. Then making sure we're omni-channel reinforcement, complement online's in store. Because a lot of times these are tied to, like say, Cyber 5 week is tied to Black Friday, people going in store. And a lot of times they're shopping online but converting in store, particularly for Walmart. Or they're shopping online while in store looking for deals. So if someone's at Best Buy, how are we making sure they're getting it from Walmart? So making sure that we're set up for success there. And then post-event, 1 to 3 weeks out, we want to do re-engagement campaigns. How do we retarget purchasers or maybe abandoners? It's a way to make sure we get them. How do we get them to buy or cross-sell or upsell if they purchase from us and make sure they stay in our portfolio? New to brand retention. So these newly acquired customers are really important to the brand. And so how do we get more messaging and brand storytelling to retarget them? Make sure they weren't just a price switcher. If they were, how do we get them to be a brand loyalist and continue to target that group? We want to make sure all the campaign reporting, what performed well, what did we learn from this? Who were the audiences that drove the business for us? And how do we take those insights and actions and apply them to new campaigns for the next tentpole moment? And then pro tips. Start planning 60 days in advance is kind of our suggested recommendation so that we can start getting everything linked up. The big thing here is just getting attention from Walmart Connect. The more, there's a lot of people trying to do this at the same time. The later we wait, the harder it is to make sure the campaigns are going to be optimized or get turned on. So let's engage with them as early as possible. And always on with event-driven ideas. Balance what we're doing. Again, if you're a CPG, a staple like a snacking food, and you're every day trying to sell during certain weeks, but like this is a moment to take advantage, that's a different campaign. And so let's make sure that the campaigns reflect that. And then let's integrate offline sales data. Walmart's a great place to understand the halo effect of how did my online business work and what were the results there? And did I see a lift in store as well? And what's the correlation between the two? Okay. Okay. So we just dumped a lot on you from ad products down through the automations and the technology and planning for it. Making sure if there's any other Q&A here, we will open the floor to chat for any other challenges you guys are facing in the space. Otherwise, because that's chapter 2. What's going to happen in chapter 3? We're going to dive into Centella. We're going to mind numb you with a whole lot of data about audiences, which is really important. Like, what's the value of offsite? And then media mix modeling. How do you understand where do your dollars go to optimize where you spend, how you spend, and what products do you spend on? Okay. So that was a little over an hour 10. That's a lot of content. So I don't see any cues coming through here. So what we'll do is we'll take 10. We will come back at exactly 2:15 And I think we can go through that next chapter 3 in about 45 minutes and get you out of here at 3 o'clock Eastern. Sounds good? All right, we're looking forward to the next chapter, guys. Oh, quick question before we go. If your brand has little to no competitors on Walmart.com, would you increase offsite spend? If yes, by how much? Little to no competitors on Walmart.com. Um,
I would
so go ahead,
go
Jeff.
ahead. I was gonna say, um, I would challenge. I'd be curious to understand kind of how you're defining the competitive set. And uh, I would imagine there are still related, kind of categories or items that customers might consider as a either substitute or complement to the product. Regardless, part of the purpose of the offsite campaigns is to build demand and build awareness. And so, even if you're not necessarily competing with a ton of additional brands on Walmart.com specifically, I would imagine you don't have any. I would imagine you have some competitors out there in the general marketplace that are also vying for sales. So when customers are thinking about that category or that type of product, ideally we want them to think about your brand. And so building that awareness and visibility is part of what the offsite display spend can help accomplish. The other thing that can help accomplish is from a retargeting standpoint, you're reaching people that you might not have been able to convert on the first pass, anyways. And so, regardless of level of competition or how effective your marketing campaigns are, you never convert 100% of the people that come to your page. And so, from a retargeting perspective, offsite display can also be really, really effective there. And so, I would think about kind of the brand awareness aspect in reaching people that are shopping in the category but might not know about you. And I would also think about the retargeting aspect to try and bring people back that you weren't able to convert in the first place. So I
Yeah.
do still think it can be valuable.
So, yeah, and to build on that, like going back to, it's the soapbox I always get on. Think in terms of audiences. You know, Walmart is huge, but reality is there is a finite limit and a glass ceiling to the number of audiences they present you that are shopping that space. So even if you've optimized and that's within Walmart, there comes a moment where you have to grow your business. You're looking for audiences elsewhere, and that's where offsite comes to be of value. So there should be unique audiences there that should not be shopping on Walmart. So that's creating new traffic and new awareness that can drive sales. Now, how much? I think every brand's a little different. We're a big fan of test and learn of, hey, let's spend a little dollars and let's see what works and see how it's performing. And the things that work, let's double down. The things that aren't, let's get out of them pretty quickly. But as we talk about MMM a little later, that's a great tool that takes in all the data to understand where should you spend next. Where's your next best dollar go to get the return that you're looking for in the growth in the business. Another question. Uh, I'm a CPG cereal brand. We have lots of competitors that are overspending us every month. Yeah, getting conquested. Yet we still perform well competing with them in store without that level of spend. I know we can be doing more though, and we can take more of the market share. We keep getting maxed out at 5% of our current sales volume, but we increase that. Our sales would likely be even higher. Any tips for convincing your founders to invest more when they're hyper focused on profitability and marketing seems like just another deduction to them? Feel your pain. And so again, not that I keep teasing out the MMM, and it's the last chapter of the section, but it's a great tool. And so what is a pre-sale to you, how an MMM works, let me rephrase it. Historically, because the guys who are going to come on and talk about it won't tell you this part. Historically, there's going to be some giant report that is basically takes months to do and it's super expensive and it's not super valuable to me because it's not real time. The new tools are now driven off of technology and algorithms in real time. And we can get data every 2 weeks or even every week to update that. And what it's doing is telling you, based on your revenue that you are generating and the media spend you're having, which vehicle is driving the results. And then we can take that and do predictive analytics to say, which one should I invest in to drive more sales? And we can concurrently look at some multiple scenarios at the same time. I'm trying to drive top line revenue. I'm trying to drive incremental profitability. I'm trying to drive new to brand. My budget's been cut, or I have more budget. Where should I spend? We can look at those simultaneously and have predictive analytics to say, if we do X, here's what we will get. So what we're trying to provide our clients, or any client, or any amendment tool should be doing, is giving you the confidence to sell to your leadership. If we invest X, here's what we will get back out of that. Now, the tools that I'm sure Bradley, when he gets on and talks about it, will tell you it's operating off of 300 plus more brands and $11.2 billion in spend that they've been tracking. So it's got an accuracy rate within 96-97%. So we feel pretty confident about because of the historical data that's already in the tool. So tools like that are what can help sell through. But to the bigger point, even if you're not using MMM, it is about using data as a proof point to sell in to say, look, we would expect a return of X. We're looking for a ROAS of Y. The incrementality should be this, and it should be about here. We're doing this because what you don't want to do is spend money to just capture more of your audience you already have. We're doing this to find new to brand or drive an incremental behavior. So I focus back on the objective of the problem we're trying to solve, and then we can create the solution around here's a story that helps drive that to sell up. Hopefully that helps. And I'm guessing some have already taken a break. So I don't know if there's any other questions. Let's see. Okay, that's great. So now I'm going to say still come back at let's make it 2:17. Give everybody a few minutes, since I'm sure some people stuck around for those questions. We'll start back at, that's a weird number. Let's come back and, yeah, we'll start around 2:17, 2:20. How about that? Okay. Hopefully everybody's back. And shockingly, we're actually spot on time, which is never happens. So we're going to get you out of here probably just right around 3 o'clock Eastern. And hopefully this has been jam-packed for you. All right, so let's talk about connecting. So now we're going to dive. This is where it starts to get a little more advanced and dive a little deeper about understanding audience insights, performance. We're going to talk about three things. We're talking about Centella. We're talking about your first-party data and how to leverage that and what that should mean for audiences. And we'll talk about media mix modeling and how to make the most out of your budget. Okay. So insights. I'm sure we all hear terms. I'm just making sure we're on a level set, a foundation of what the difference between 1P, 2P, and 3P is. All right. So first party data is going to be things that you own. Second party data is going to be something you get from a partner. And third party data is things that are generally available in the marketplace. So examples would be first party, yours, what you have from your CRM, people who've signed up for your email, who come to your website, data that you understand and can identify audiences off of. Second party data depends on who you are, but let's talk about, for today's purposes, Centella, Walmart. Now, for Walmart, it is their first party data, but to you, it is a second party data because you're getting it from them. And then third party data is going to be all those other sources, anything from social or demographics, behavior, location, weather, interest. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of data sources, and we use those, and you'll see from our friends at MediaIQ how those get used to define audience behavior and intent. So how do we leverage that data to understand how people are shopping? And that helps our offsite. But we can also, we recently integrated that first party data with Amazon to help do some more precision targeting with AMC. Scintilla is not there yet. We'll talk about where it's at, but like for the purpose of today, we're going to talk about Scintilla and start there. All right. So what's the differences between all three of these? These are the big players. There's going to be more coming from other retailers, but right now these are the three that have data out there, and they play different roles because there are different levels of sophistication and advancement of where they are and where they started. But I'll focus on this. The difference really that kind of drives it home is the unique selling point of each. For Amazon, they actually have a true clean room. You can upload your 1P data and you can help use that to create campaigns and understand user level information. It's anonymized, so we'll never have PII there, but it helps us do incredible granular marketing with that. Scintilla is a fantastic, also giving you store level granular data, but they're earlier in their maturity. They are going to have a lot more in operational data. The audience piece is newer. The 1P piece is not there. The creating audiences is newer as well. I mean, literally in beta, which we'll talk about. Then 8451, because of the history of how long they've been around doing it, there's a lot of personalization, which you can do within their Kroger Plus platform and using their loyalty card. So varying levels of what they all offer, but you kind of we'll start to break down the differences, and I'm going to dive into Scintilla. All right. So with Scintilla, there are 5 basic capabilities that exist there. Shopper behavior. This is going to be around basket. The first 3 are going to be very transactional things that if you've been in shopper marketing for a while, like things we're used to seeing. Shopper perception, this is the voice of the customer, and there will be surveys and be able to have content to engage with them. There's digital landscapes, which this is going to help us understand how people are searching for products on Walmart.com. That's really important. Insights activation, then how do we use those insights from digital landscapes and connect that to Walmart Connect? And then channel performance, how things are performing from an operational standpoint. And a lot of this has to do with more of the sales side. So the first 2 and the last one are a little difficult, don't necessarily apply as much to a Walmart Connect world. The 2 that matter are digital landscapes and insights activation. Now, for a lot of these, some of them are open to everybody, but majority of the tool is in private beta. Not all the functionality is 100% yet. So again, they're following suit from what Amazon has created with AMC, and they're developing the products and tools. And look, I expect them to move a lot faster than what Amazon did, because there's a lot of folks who came from Amazon who are at Walmart, and they are helping build this and understand how to get there faster and also build things in a way that are better than what they had at their previous life. For everything else on there, there is definitely ebooks available. I would recommend going to walmartdataventures.com, and you can get ebooks on actually all 5 of these. We'll dive into these 2 because the other 3 don't have application directly to Walmart Connect. All right, so let's talk about landscapes, what it is, and what you can do with it. So digital landscapes, it's basically clickstream data to help us understand items, brands, and categories. Where are the potential customers? Where do they come from? What's my conversion funnel look like? Where are my potential customers in market? When? And then how are my products performing? So it's an engagement dashboard. It's available to suppliers of Walmart. They have to have a seller ID to be able to access this, and you have to request access. It's not openly available. So you have to make a request, get approved, and you then be able to start to work with the tool. So we'll dive into those kind of different functionalities of it. So digital landscapes can give us source of traffic. So this helps us understand, where are they coming from? Are they external? Are they from walmart.com? Are they from non-search? So this helps me understand, how do I apply my dollars? Where's my budget go to be able to create a campaign? How much of it's actually coming from search versus offsite? And that helps us understand dollars and where to spend and who these audiences are, so I can appropriately create the right kind of campaign and budget. When we talk about just terminology, search traffic, the way it's defined, are people that have searched for products or category on walmart.com. Non-search traffic means they're on walmart.com, but they're navigating to you through the homepage or through category pages. It's through clicks, not through search. Then we can track how things change over time and how you arrive in organic pieces. But this helps us. It's a great piece to help us understand. Now, all these tools are kind of where AMC was a few years ago. They're reports. And mostly these are reports. Then, like, you have to take that data and then create that with you, whether in-house or with your agency partner, to create a campaign to address that and solve the solutions around it. Conversion funnel. So questions this answers. What does my conversion funnel look like, and where are my customers abandoning their cart? So it helps us understand their journey. Are they discovering? Are they considering? Are they converting? So this plays a lot towards a retargeting, understanding who these audiences are, the size of those audiences. It helps us also understand if they're looking at the product page, but I'm not getting in cart. So is there something on my product page that's not answering the question? Do I need to address that and make sure we're solving solutions there to get better conversion and get better purchase add to cart? So we can also understand. So it's about the detailed page views. We want to reduce attrition, right? I want to be able to optimize what we're doing here. So it's another tool to understand, is my PDP performing? This is one of my favorites, daily traffic. So questions we're answering here. When are my potential customers in market? And what days should I prioritize ad spend? And it's not even just that. We talked about tools earlier. Jeff talked about it, as well as Kevin, around day parting. So again, if you're using the self-serve platform, you get to set your bid, and it will be standardized across every day of the week and every hour of the day. And what happens a lot of times, you will run out of budget before your peak days or peak hours. This helps you understand, well, one of my peak days, I can start to been turning that on if I'm using automation. I only want to run ads Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Or I find that people are shopping at noon on Sunday. Well, we can optimize the bidding against that, so that we're creating the higher bids during those key periods, and we can lower our bids during the non-key periods. So we're going to make your budget go further. And that's what you were trying to understand here. Again, this is a report, and you're going to try to set that up manually. Or as we start to understand this, you can start to set those bidding automations within a technology platform. So we'll do that on your behalf. And I think the fourth tool we'll talk about here is digital landscapes is the session share. How are my products performing compared to the category at large? So again, looking at top competitors, am I getting share of voice? Am I getting the views or the media traction that my competitors are? Are we getting added to the cart in the same way? And these are just good indicators, KPIs, to say, am I getting the performance I should be out of my media and my PDP? And if we're not looking at that, you're trying to compare this to the category or the median performance, who's doing it best? And am I competing up there, or am I competing with a category average? And if I'm not even doing that, then we know we've got real problems to solve. So we want to track those performances and see how you rank against them. And hopefully you're punching above your weight and getting more share of voice through your paid and organic activations. All right. So then what do you do with a lot of those data? So what's nice though is Centilla has moved faster than what Amazon did. In the past with AMC, Amazon Marketing Cloud, you could run those reports and then it was a manual process that you had to take some sort of action. Centilla has quickly moved into a space where you can actually take the insights from Centilla and integrate them into Walmart Connect. So this is where the worlds connect and maybe able to merge to help you actually do some activations against this. Now, this is going to be against an audience. It's not always so it's not going to be in search, which we'll kind of drill into. So what you're able to do, there's two types of ways you can work within the Insights activation tool with Centilla. You can do auto-generated reports opportunities, or there is customized where you can go in and set some parameters. For purposes of today, I'm going to focus on the auto-generated opportunities that it will create. And what it's going to do is it's an auto-generate opportunities that it's finding that are based on customer spend and purchase behavior, and it's going to help create uh, uh, what these opportunities are, who the audience is, the revenue they think it will generate, and it'll do this on a bi-weekly, every 2 weeks cadence. And it's going to rank those opportunities based on the impact of your sales. And so, but based on that, you can then take those insights and you can select which ones are important to you, what you can drill into them, review them, select the opportunities you want to learn more insights and act about, see a recommendation summary of what those insights are, and see the contributing factors that show the data that was used to create that recommendation goal. Don't ever take it at face value. Understand how they're getting to that recommendation. Because, to Jeff mentioned earlier, a lot of times any of these retailers, they're going to try to push you to the product that is the most profitable for them. And they'll show you the math that is going to drive business for you. But we want to make sure we're balancing those two to make sure it's going to drive the best business result for you. So based off of those insight recommendations, you can then apply those and save those recommendations and send them directly to your ad console, to the ad center for Walmart Connect. And from there, you can turn those on, you can save those ads, and then you'll start those audiences will be shared to multiple accounts from Centella. All right. And then you can then move into the ad center and activate and create the campaigns. Now, these campaigns are going to be display and CTV, on-site, off-site. It will not be search related. All of that data will come from search and keywords, and we'll have to do that is not something today that Centilla has. Amazon just released that. So Amazon AMC was in place for nearly 2 years before the search component came in. And so with Centilla, this is relatively new, a couple months. I do think they'll move faster than Amazon. I would expect to maybe see the search functionality come in hopefully later this year. But that's my guess. That's no insider knowledge. And it shows up in the activation on these kind of campaigns. I kind of mentioned from a display or streaming, which is, again, it's about finding those audiences, retargeting based on behaviors, whether there was a didn't add the cart, abandoned the cart, or we can base it off of audiences who fit a certain profile that we're trying to get that are new to brand. And then we want to track all that activation across the board, be able to engage those audiences and track the performance. Again, it's always going to be about performance and optimizing in real time. And again, so Jeff mentioned when in his section, look, the ads component has certifications, and so does Centella. So you can go get certified on any of these pieces we talked about. So right now, their certifications are very focused on the operations side of the business. So that's going to be replenishment, sales, insights, account management, and category advisor. The landscapes and insights activation are not there yet, but coming. They're the newer pieces of the ecosystem for them.
Hey, Sean, we got a question coming in from the Q&A. Are these tools going to be available in the free version of Centella? Do we have any insight yet into where they're releasing that? I know that the beta features usually sometimes come with a paid.
Yeah, so the beta features, so what they're available right now to larger clients right now, CPGs typically, or so the big enterprise guys. That's a question I think we'll have to follow up. I don't have an answer for you right now because I don't know what they're going to launch. I can tell you in comparison at Amazon, they're offering free for the first 60 days, and then it becomes a paid feature behind a paywall. But I would assume Walmart may follow something similar to that. I just don't know what that model, the financial model is going to look like just yet. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to talk about are our friends on Media IQ on here yet? Have you seen them, Matt, David, or Nishant?
I am here. Hello.
Oh, hey, there they are. And
We have Nishant, and then also
so, hey, Matt, could you also add Archit? So I would introduce these guys. They are partners of ours as well. So the role that it's interesting to me, what the reason we partner with them, when you look at retail media is very good at understanding the performance in the channel, which we've been talking about all day. Audiences is which has historically been a very brand-centric approach, is new to the retail media space. And now that they're opening up audiences, particularly with AMC and now with Centella, it changes some of the behaviors and how we do the activation. And what our whole point, I don't know if I have a lead in for you guys. No, I'm sorry. Just making sure. I'm going to do a little tee up for you guys that what's happening is to understand audiences is the ability to take some of the traditional brand approach and using all these offsite tools and understanding all those data sources to create an audience. And what the reason I think that's important is every retailer is going to say, I have your audience data here. Everything you need is right here. Well, that's the audience that they have. That's part of the total market. It's not the total addressable market. Amazon has some, Walmart has some, Target, Instacart, Kroger. And so how do we make sure you have your own audience? We want to make sure that you're driving how do you define your own audience tools so that you can then leverage that to understand how that looks versus what the retailer has. What's your source of truth? And then as you have that, more of these retailers are going to start being able to integrate those audiences that you create with your own 1P and 3P data into their platforms. Not readily accessible today. Actually, MediaIQ in BirdDog this past year did a pilot with Amazon to do exactly that and went to market with that. And I expect to see more of that in the coming year and more as these retailers start opening up their clean rooms to allow that to happen. So that's my tee up for these guys. I'm going to let them talk to you about audiences and data and what you can do with that and why it's important to understand it.
awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. So really a lot of, I mean, being on and hearing where Sean has taken this conversation and really where MIQ fits into this puzzle, he nails it in regards to first party and third party. That is kind of what we have focused on in connecting. Personally, I've been in the digital advertising space, but also the DMP space in regards to digital management platforms. And being able to connect the two has always been the number one thing that all clients are trying to do. It's just, how can I make sure that I have my audience and then understand how to hit them? So not only who is buying, but where are they buying? Why are they buying? And then what are the other things that they're actually touching in the world that I can make sure that can help me identify this audience. So retailer data like Walmart is available. It's not always matched to your audiences. RMN's rich in scale and media access, but need smarter segmentation, drive truer value. Activation teams lack clarity on which shoppers to target across which channels. Now, when you're connecting all of this, the opportunity becomes shopper intelligence before campaigns even start. Understanding who your core audience is, who your lapsed buyer is, and then more importantly, who your competitive set is. So if you guys are trying to get into the space and you know these are the competitors or this is the share of voice that you want to take from, understanding that third-party data and how they're aligned with and what products and SKUs are related to these types of media and where to find them. This is what MIQ's Consumer Link does. And I have brought two people here with me that helped build this platform from the ground up, Nishant and Archit, who are going to go specifically into what the platform does, into how you're able to utilize it, and then how you're able to bring your first-party data into it to make it that much smarter for those executions. Nishant, or Archit, I don't know who's taking over on this one, but I don't know if this would be the for you guys going from day zero.
Yep, I'll take it away. Thanks, Dave. All right, so I think Dave laid it out really well in terms of what Consumer Link is, what kind of data it uses. I'll just start by saying that any tool is only as good as the data that powers it. And I'm going to start with the data set that powers this tool. It's MIQ Shopper Graph. This data set brings together all the transactional signals from our third-party partners. It has POS data sets, it has e-receipts and all those data sets. And those are all the signals that you'll be seeing in these slides. On the right, you can see some GIFs that are just some snapshots of the tool that Consumer Link is. On the left-hand side, you can see some of the important insights or the planning sections that you can leverage from this tool. Not a lot to speak to on this slide. I'll be double-clicking on a lot of these things in the subsequent ones, so we can move on to the next one. All right, I think this is a good slide to start with. This is much like a zoomed out view of what this dashboard is all about. So this tool, it talks about your consumers from different lenses, starting with the consumer behavior, going to geo insights, looking at different channels and planning according to that. And in the end, rounding everything up into one retail media network recommendation scorecard that you can look at and plan for your media. So in the subsequent slides, I'm going to double click on each of these. So moving forward to the next one. All right, so starting with consumer demographics and behavior, we understand that traditionally the way to look at these audiences has been very much on the lines of basic demographic insights. That is something that's still available here. So on the top, you can see audience demographics that tells you what are the and who are the audience that interact with your brand. But where this tool goes beyond and does things is in the subsequent sections where you're able to see value-based segmentation. So this value-based segmentation, here we bring in our commerce data set, and we start looking at factors like recency, frequency, and monetary value, basically giving you an idea of how recently someone purchased from your brand, how frequent they are when it comes to buying from your brand, and what is the total spend that they're making towards those purchases. So suddenly, instead of just defining an audience like women aged 25 to 44, you are talking about high-value shoppers who buy frequently from my brand, and let's say who have purchased more than twice or thrice in last 30 days. So this is the level of customization that Consumer Link lets you dive into when it comes to planning from consumer lens. We also have some additional signals here like purchase cycle behavior and basket analysis. These are the things that kind of complement the value-based segmentation. Now, value-based segmentation that is really exciting, and I really want to double click on that in the next slide. But these two additional signals that you are seeing here, purchase cycle and basket adjacency, that are the complementing arms for this value-based segmentation. So purchase cycle is something that tells you what is the average number of days between two purchases from a user. And basket adjacency is something that tells you if someone has bought a product A, what is the product B that is bought most frequently together. This really helps you bring in some additional users or suppress some users who have bought, let's say, just 2 days back. You don't really want to waste your media by targeting those kind of users. Sean, I see you're off mute.
Yeah, I was just going to interject. Look, what we find super valuable out of this is you'll be able to look at these different segments and understand and apply the purchase cycle and the purchasing they're making. So lifetime value and propensity to purchase. How valuable is each segment? What's the business opportunity they represent to you? And we can then match, what you should be doing is matching this data or taking the data from the retailer data you're getting and trying to bring it into here to say, how do I find those other audiences offsite? How do I find incremental ways to bring more revenue to the marketplace to drive those sales I'm looking for? So this is all about that zeroing in on the most valuable audience who matches what you're trying to achieve on that retailer site and drive that traffic.
Yeah. And Sean, I was just going to bring up, I know that somebody asked a question earlier in regards to not having, if you don't have competitors, this basket analysis is a really good opportunity for you to utilize. If you don't have any competitors, what are the products most linked to people that buy you? So this just gives you an idea of being like, okay, and if you are going into Walmart Connect and you're utilizing some of that, now you know the other products. If it's not yours, the other products that you want to kind of align with and the other data segments that you want to go after.
Yeah, I love that. And so I'm going to reiterate the soapbox I've been on all day is that this is about audiences and the layers. Start with those audiences, demand capture on site. Then I start to look out in radiuses from there of how do I find more audiences to drive more of those transactions. Now this may feel the furthest away from the center where the retailer is, but it is a really valuable place to be in terms of understanding insights. And it also gives you a comparison of when you can have your own source of truth of who an audience is and how does that look to what the retailer is saying. And is there a dissonance or alignment between that?
Totally. Great points, Sean and Dave. Really helpful. One thing that I'll also like to touch upon on this slide is in the value-based segmentation tile, you're also able to see those 4 segments: slipping, first time, promising, and core. So these are the segments that get created out of this RFM segmentation, and this is how it starts becoming relevant to your brand. So if you want to double down on your core purchases, you model out those segments and just target those users. If you are looking to reduce churn, slipping audience is something that you want to start targeting more aggressively. And first-time buyers are the ones who are buying for the first time. If you want to have a really tailored messaging for those kind of audiences, you can go ahead and target them with that. So just wanted to end that there, but Dave?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the good thing about this platform is it's fully actionable as well. You can we want to target our core audience. You could even go in and say, our competitors, we want to target their slipping audience, things, the ability to activate off this on multiple digital channels in different platforms. We are able to do that. That is one of the biggest things. And then you can see how performance is and activating this on things like in the Walmart Connect DSP. How can we do that? Does it help drive ROAS? We can actually do this across some of those offline and offsite measurements. So CTV campaigns against these specific audience or core audiences. So it's not only an information and insight platform, it's also an activation platform as well. We can go to the next one, right, Archit?
Yep, let's move on. All right, so in this slide, we quickly want to talk about the fundamentals of segmentation and how do we really go about segmenting those users into core, promising, slipping. So as I said in the previous slide, the first and the baseline layer of any consumer behavior segmentation is looking at the demographics, which is a very traditional way of doing things. A layer above that is value-based segmentation, where we are talking about RFM segmentation. I'm sure most of us here, we must have heard about what RFM segmentation is. Basically segmenting the users based on their recency, frequency, and monetary value. This lets us bucket all the users based on how recently, how frequently, and what's the amount that they have spent. Based on these factors, you are able to segment them. And once we have got that, you are able to build those targeted segments and tailor your messaging according to what your segment says. So on the right-hand side, you can see that RFM segmentation is made up of recency, frequency, and monetary values, but two additional and derived KPIs or metrics that we look at here is, firstly, is lag between two purchases, which we also call purchase cycle. So when you're able to see what's that average gap between two purchases, you are able to layer that onto your RFM segments. For example, if you find out that the best RFM segment that you have, the people who are there are some people who have also purchased things just 2 days back. You don't really want to target those users, but you also want to incorporate those users who have lapsed and haven't made a purchase, let's say in the last 2 purchase cycles. So this additional KPI helps you pull in those additional users and suppress those users where you might be potentially wasting some of your media dollars. And in the end, like how we spoke in the previous slide about basket adjacency, also known as market basket analysis, helps you understand that which 2 products are bought together most frequently. So for example, if someone has already purchased serum, you are going to target them with something like a sunscreen in future. So this really helps you have that creative messaging out based on what they have purchased recently. Moving on to the next one. So that was all about the consumer insights and how all those things come together to tell you what your consumers are behaving like. This one is more about the geographical and location-based insights, mostly to understand where your customers are, where they are buying, and how that can inform your marketing strategy. To start with, we have a purchase heat map that gives you a visual representation of some of your sales hotspots or some of the places where your product might be underperforming and you'd be looking to double down on targeting in those regions. In the subsequent section, you'll be able to see we are zooming into cities and DMAs by finding out some over-indexing and under-indexing areas where you might want to adjust your marketing dollars towards or suppress the marketing dollars in some of those areas based on what you find out. The next one, which is really exciting personally for me, Sean, if you can just go back to the last one. I was just talking about the next tile there, which is market analysis, where you can really select 2 or 3 custom KPIs and segment the entire market into these 4 splits. So let's say if you are looking into total sales compared to, let's say, average basket value, or category penetration, something like that. So you are able to segment all your zips, all your DMAs into these 4 segments, and then allocate your marketing budgets, messaging according to that. In the end, you have one heat map that tells you offline versus online split. So in a state where you have more online purchases compared to offline, you are able to see that here and adjust marketing based on that. Moving on to the next one, just a quick example of how these geo insights help you planning. There are multiple different ways of interpreting these insights, but where I find these insights really helping brands is, let's say in a place like Chicago compared to a place like New York, the distribution of sales could be very different. In New York, people would be preferring buying things online and delivery-based compared to places like Chicago or let's say Dallas, where people prefer to go in the store and buy things. These are the insights that can help you uncover those kind of trends and allocate things to the right channel. So just a quick slide on how you can leverage these insights. Moving on. All right, so this one is about channel planning. We all understand that there are a ton of channels, new emerging channels every single day, from Walmart to CTV to digital out of home. This one section of this tool brings together everything and lets you plan for the mix of the channels that you want to activate on. Starting with the top tile here is the ATV trends. This advanced TV trend style will help you understand what are the different shows, different content, different channels that the people are, your brand consumers are watching. This firstly helps you understand what content they're consuming, but secondly, if you want to model out and target those users, you are able to do that and create those custom segments for your outreach. The second section here is incremental reach. For all the people, for all the consumers for your brand, you are able to see the people that you have already reached using linear TV, but also the incremental users that you were not able to reach using linear TV. And that's where you can plan for your connected TV or CTV media plan. The next one here is browsing behavior. This one is just to let you know about the contextual interaction of the users with the brand or the internet, just letting you know what kind of websites, what kind of keywords are the users browsing, and help you optimize your programmatic campaigns towards those things. And in the end, we also have availability of different digital out-of-home screens broken out by different regions. So if you want to plan for your DOH campaigns, you can look at certain regions where there are more screens compared to the other and plan accordingly.
Yeah.
Moving
Archit,
on.
I was going to say, if we just go back to that last slide real quick, because I know we're heading on time. This is very impactful, taking all the first part of this data that we went through in regards to promising core, the segmentation, and where all the sales were happening, and then matching it with what are people watching, what sites are they going to, how are they doing it. But again, I always have to mention the competitive brands as well, which would be in here in regards to understanding the first-time buyers of competitive brand one. Okay, we know they watch this show. We can even get down to the point of retargeting people that have seen ads of another specific brand. So by being able to take not only your data, but also your competitors' data, and then match that with these ATV trends, incremental, and then being able to activate it across digital out of home, display and online video, CTV, TV, across the board. So I just wanted to reiterate that point, Archit. I think it's an important one because it's definitely what brings us all together.
No, absolutely. That's correct, Dave. Sean, we can move on to the next one. All right, so this section is again one of my favorites. This one, what we call internally is retailer scorecard. For a brand, if you want to position your products across different retailers, this section of the tool helps you find which is the right or what are the right set of retailers where you can position that. And three factors that we bake in here. The first one is brand growth, looking at the retailers from your own brand's lens, starting with customer acquisition rate. Every month, what is that net new customer acquired by that retailer, brand sales growth, that net month-on-month growth that you're seeing for your brand, and in the end, customer penetration, the percentage of retail customers that buy your brand within that whole retailer ecosystem. So this is all about brands. Like how Dave said, at every step, we are also baking in the competitive angle as well. So in this retailer scorecard, you're also able to assess different brands based on how your competitors are performing, starting with what is the price index compared to your brand, share of category sales between your brand and the competitor brands, and in the end, what is the price elasticity? Any change to the sales that happens by the change uptick or reduction in the price for your brand compared to the competitors, and in the end, customer loyalty. What is that retention rate? What is that brand loyalty towards your brand? And the net promoter score that is calculated by the formula that you can see here all comes together and forms one retailer scorecard, which helps you finalize what are those retailers where you can activate on and run your ad campaigns. Those are all the slides that we had, I guess, Sean, if you don't have anything else.
Yeah, I think just to add on to this part quickly, like I think this has been very, very impactful, and this is a net new rollout that we did earlier this year. Like especially just to put this into action, if you're looking at brand growth and you know that your product's penetration has increased at target from 8 to 14%, that means you can increase your media investment when you're looking at one of the retailers. When you're looking at a price elasticity, comparing at two shops, if one place has a price half for the product, the sales are impacted. That's where it becomes more actionable, and loyalty is more in the way we are able to see how these customers are coming and repeating the behavior. That has helped us like plan more media planning around that and boost the repeat rate. So I think the point here to understand is like we are not just using the shopper data, trying to stitch together TV and any media planning data that we have to bring the actionability, not just for programmatic display, TV and out of home all together. So I think that's a summary that I just want to close with. Audition.
That's great. And so thank you guys. So again, like the whole point of getting this group on here is, look, we started at the very center, at the closest to the retailer and that person searching for that product, and we started to layer out from there of the ways to find incremental audiences to drive drive a transaction. And so you want to make sure you have full visibility of all the tools that are available to you in the marketplace to find an audience. And these are great ways to reach audiences that may not be on the retailer and to drive a new transaction for you. So thank you guys. Okay. So we kind of talked about all of that. So everything from search all the way up to what we're talking here with DSP and streaming offsite. And that brings us to understanding how to do budget optimization. How do you even direct any dollars to any of these platforms, and why would you choose to do them? Well, that's kind of what I was just saying. How would you decide what to spend on each of these? So we're about to bring on Bradley Kiefer from Keen, but before I do, I want to kind of set up, at least in layman's terms, how I would define it. Is media mix modeling is a method for doing it. A statistical analysis technique used to help us understand the impact of different channels or to get the business outcomes. It's all based off of a business outcome. When we look at the business, I'm looking at two things: top line revenue and profitable growth. Everything else is a KPI. It's great to understand if we're being efficient at what we're doing, but nobody here is getting bonus on driving a ROAS. We're getting bonus on driving sales. And so we always want to make sure we're getting those kind of business outcomes out of this. So it's using a lot of data and analysis, which I can't explain, but these guys can, about how it happens. And what we're trying to do there is optimize budgets, help you justify spend, have predictive analytics around that, being able to forecast what the outcomes will be so we can act with certainty, and understanding the long-term brand building out of this. It provides a holistic view. It's agnostic. What I love about this is a lot of partners will have MMM. They'll say, "Here's how we should spend within Walmart." When you come to any partner, you're given a budget. Let's use $100,000. You're not asked to spend 100 grand on Walmart. You're asked to spend 100 grand to win on Walmart. And so the question is, how much should be spent on their platform or offsite? Which tools should we be using? What's the most efficient way to get the business result we're looking for? So that's my tee up for Bradley and Justin, and I'd like to introduce them and let them take over from here.
Awesome. Appreciate the opportunity, Sean. Again, I'm Brad Key from the Chief Revenue Officer at Keen Decision Systems. Justin Jefferson was with me as well. He's our VP of Strategy and Insight. And really, Sean's point is valid, which is what we heard today is a bunch of individual point solutions that solve individual point problems. And what Keen is saying is there is an ability to bring all of it together, to bring all the point solutions into a singular interoperable platform to be able to answer questions from your CFO, like, is the budget that I gave you actually driving incremental impact? And is my Amazon search or my Walmart search haloing? Is my Walmart search haloing onto other brick and mortar retailers? Is it haloing onto Amazon? So you're able to answer questions by putting all the different point solutions together inside of our system against a total P&L based model. So the way you think about Keen is if you take 100% of your working dollars, you're going to load it all into our platform. First, we're going to do a marketing mix model. We also have an MTA solution partner as well. And then we can validate all of our marketing mix model through incrementality. But this is not a marketing mix model like your old traditional PowerPoint deck that takes 8 months to build kind of thing. This is as automated and as fast as the APIs can push data into our system. And it's as granular as the level of decisioning you're trying to make. So if you want to build a decision hierarchy that takes the MIQ audience definition and the revenue by audience and build a whole portfolio model, you can do that. Or if you want to build JBP total cost of customer based models, you can do that as well. So again, it's not a consulting based PowerPoint, it's a software application, but it's built in a way that aligns to the decision hierarchy that you're trying to actually answer the investment questions around. The measurement, though, is just the beginning because at the end of the day, it's like my ROI was $1.05, but that was in a world that doesn't exist a year from now. So Keen's real focus is on the planning and forecasting. So right now, the big thing that we're answering for brands is, I know there was a cereal company that messaged earlier. If the cereal category has 3 new entrants and cereal is declining as a category because of the rise of GLP-1, and my margin is going to be impacted by 2% going forward because of tariff, and I'm going to launch new packaging starting in October, how should I spend my budget? Well, I can tell you all the measurement point solutions last year can't answer that question, right? They're going to tell you last year your ROI is $1.05, but our perspective is who cares, right? I'm going to use that to be able to answer the question tomorrow and build probabilistic forecasts and revenue outcome-based forecasts based off of week by week optimized media plans that are all informed by Keen's marketing mix model that is informed by all the other point solutions that we were talking about here before this. So at the end of the day, like, our system is taking all the solutions you've heard, including Sky and MIQ, and pushing them all into a singular model to be able to answer the question based off of all of that performance in a world that I believe is going to change. How should I spend my dollars, and what's the revenue going to be? So that's the output of our system to then feed back into Sky as an example, where we could take our weekly output buying plans, feed it into Sky to do the intraday buying and execution there for the purpose of supporting your JBPs, and all of it's displayed in our dashboarding capability inside of our software tool. So at the end of the day, what we're able to answer then is these types of questions. So overall, against my total P&L, not based off of I did a thing on Walmart, what was the impact on Walmart, but I did a thing on Walmart, what was the impact on my P&L, all the way up to the top. Because all the other point solutions or platform reported metrics can only tell you what the output or the iROAS or incrementality was based off of deterministic modeling. They're only able to model based off what they can see. Keen can see the entire world and bring it all together to be able to say, well, how much of a long-term impact or a lifetime impact incrementally was my CTV ad? So when I bought CTV through Walmart, am I driving incremental sales today, 6 months from now, or a year and a half from now? All of those things can be answered inside of the system from a historic lens. But the bigger unlock is on the right side, which is questions like, how much can we spend profitably by channel by week for the next 52 weeks in the environment where category is down because of GLP-1, where tariffs have impacted my margin, where a new category entrant is there? We're able to answer that question based off a response curve by channel by a week. But we're also able to answer questions like, well, I've never spent on TikTok before. Is that a channel that will be valuable for me? So, and what is the lift on Walmart if I spend on TikTok? So at the end of the day, it's not just about where should I spend and when should I spend, but how can I profitably impact my business tomorrow, a year from now, and 3 years from now inside of our system. So how does it work? So Keen starts with our IP, which is our marketing elasticity engine. So we utilize a multiplicative econometric Bayesian approach. So for those who are following along with like Google's best practices or like Meta's Robin best practices, like that's the same modeling we've been doing since Keen started 15 years ago. The differentiator that we have is that our marketing elasticity engine is tagging 14 different variables of a brand who is working with us and their descriptors. So things like category, industry category, revenue size, margin, spend portfolio, things like that get tagged, and the execution of their marketing dollars that are measured through my measurement system are informing econometric based or elasticities. So what I'm showing up with is I'm a $500 million a year, fast moving D2C with minor distribution cereal company. How should I spend on what channels? I can answer the performance questions with about 80 to 85% accuracy before you feed a single dollar of your activations into our system. But then when we take that anonymized elasticity engine and feed it with your 1 to 2 years of historic time series data, that's the red mountain in the middle, I'm able to create a fully custom priors-based model for you for the purpose of marketing mix. And if you say, but I ran a lift study or I did an incrementality test and I think that you're under-reporting the impact, great. The Bayesian approach allows us to take those other brand studies and override the priors in our model. And you can do all of this without understanding data science inside of our platform. So we walk you through it. It's a click by click, tutorial-based application. So open source is great, but open source, unless you're a data scientist or unless you have some kind of visualization, the tools are incomplete. If you're using consulting, the tools are black box, right? So we're trying to bring transparency, speed, and visualization capability into the platform itself. From that model, we go to the next slide. What we're producing for you there is a real-time and transparent marketing mix model. So every time you load new time series data, you click a button and it updates the regression model in 5 seconds. So I'm then able to see what was my ROI, what was my incremental revenue, what was the incremental NPV or net present value that I was able to drive in both the short term and the long term. I'm going to show you the fit of the model. I'm going to show you the priors that are used in the model. So again, removing that black box and bringing speed. It doesn't mean real time doesn't mean you need to update this every single day and every single second. The industry is like, there's people out there talking about like real time MMM is like load new data every day. Why would you need to do that, right? Like you're not adjusting your strategy that often and your execution that often. Real time for us is you click a button and you get new updates of refreshed information in real time. From that real-time marketing mix model, you're able to then go to the next slide, and you're able to see in the application the ability to say, all right, so what should I do for the balance of this fiscal year? I have to hit this revenue target. What budget would I need? Assuming, again, categories down 3%, TDPs are up 2%, all of those things can be modeled in the application. I could then spit out how much your budget should be, how you should spend by week, maximizing for interaction effect between those channels, maximizing for seasonality impact, understanding the ramp up period of each activation to be able to drive the most profitable plan to achieve that revenue target. Or if you have a fixed budget, how do I optimize that fixed budget? Or if I want to run 3-year plans, I could do that as well. So like I have a forecasted plan. My agency gave me the buying plan for the balance of the year. I'm going to load that in. And then I'm going to be able to run like, all right, well, what would my budget be for next year? Because I'm getting ready to do annual planning. So I can run 3 or 4 different scenarios for next year. You're able to output all of this information inside of our application. And again, what it's going to produce for you is a week by week investment buying plan for 100% of your working dollars, trade, shopper, your relative price, as well as all of your marketing and media, as well as the revenue forecast that you could then feed into S&OP planning as an example. So again, our system is focused on the outcome, not only from a revenue and a unit and a profitability perspective, but from a incremental profitability and NPV perspective, which is the key metric that we like brands to focus on.
Yeah, and just to interject, Bradley, this is one of my favorite things about this is the ability that it's concurrent.
Because again, to Sean's
modeling.
point earlier,
I'm sorry.
You're good.
What I love is the concurrent modeling, right? That you can look at multiple scenarios and you can answer any of the questions any of your leadership is going to have. Well, those what ifs. Well, what if it were this? Like you can come prepared and answer those questions with confidence based on the model.
Exactly. Cool. Then go to the next slide. And then all of this is delivered inside of our own BI tool that lives within the application, which is optimized with LLMs that know how to interpret math and all the charts and things like that. And ultimately, from there, you can click to download all the data to push it back into your own BI tool, or you can click a button and download it directly into slides. So for those who are used to the consultant deck of the 100 slides and you use 3 of them, I can still produce the 100 slides for you, except I'm going to remove all of the hours of slide building time because I'm going to allow the data and the system and the AI bot that we've built to actually produce those slides for you, again, in real time. So again, we've optimized for speed and storytelling beyond just like, optimizing the model for outputting the results. So all of it is being delivered again in a real-time dashboard, as well as the ability to download that data for a BI tool or into the slides themselves. We're also supporting all of this with our account services team. So again, a lot of times you'll hear software, and software means that it's like, well, I got to figure it out on my own. That's also not true. So Keen has a full consulting capability as well with our application. And we've also got the partners at BirdDog who are able to like become power users and know how to interpret the data and things like that. But Keen is not a full self-service application. It can be, and there's about 60 to 70% of our app usage is our external clients. But we also have a managed service and consulting team that is coming along with the subscription. And what that team is spending their time doing is a lot of this forecast actualization. It's one thing for Keen to output a revenue buying or a revenue forecast and a buying plan. It's another thing for us to actually say, well, was it right? So I'm able to predict your revenue on average within about a 4% margin of error. The larger enterprise CPG businesses that work with us, like a Campbell Soup Company or a JM Smucker, I'm forecasting most of their businesses every quarter around 1% or less from a revenue forecasting perspective. They're taking our plans, they're executing our plans, we're forecasting the revenue within about 1% margin of error. And I'm doing this across their entire portfolio of brands. This is a tool that's available for enterprises spending hundreds of millions of dollars and for small startup brands, which is our sweet spot, brands that are spending between 1 million in working dollars to 40 million in working dollars is where about 80% of our client base is at this stage. Think about brands like Poppy Beverage or Athletic Brewing or Chomps Meat Snacks, all clients and brands that are emerging brands that are where they are today, partly powered by Keen. So this forecast actualization allows us to see, well, was the ROI wrong because the category assumption was wrong, because the flighting was executed incorrectly, because, and you can keep starting to add that layer of accountability and answer well, why was the forecast and the performance off? That's all being delivered in the application as well, and with our managed service team. So who's using this tool and what are the types of insights? So Justin, I want to turn it over to you to start bringing some of these insights to life, not only for an individual brand, but also, what are we seeing across our client base at this stage?
Yeah, this is a great setup slide. I appreciate the intro here. Ultimately, what we're going to run through is a particular model setup for one of our customers that enables really that brand to answer these questions. So they're roughly 150 million a year in that marketing media, not including the trade spend. And they just want to know, hey, what is the incremental revenue being driven by my media? How does that impact Walmart? And then how does that Walmart spend specifically impact Walmart versus other retailers? And given our functionality and the way in which we can build hierarchies of models, we're able to answer all of these questions. So we can jump into the next slide. So here again, it's just showing on that left side, it's the actual architecture of the model. So we have a total portfolio where they're breaking out each of their retailers. And so they're looking at key retailers like Amazon, Dollar General, Kroger, Sam's, Target, Walmart, and then they have an all other, right? For a lot of the other kind of small retail, so they sell through. And then what we have are kind of our factors. And so we have factors bucketed in multiple ways. Some of them are what we would call portfolio factors, which are factors that would influence sales at all of your retailers, right? You have a very high level branded linear TV ad, right? That's not going to be specific to any one retailer. It's going to be kind of a portfolio or a master brand tactic is what we usually refer to that. And then we also have tactics that are retailer specific. So you may have, a specific shopper marketing program at Walmart in store. You may be doing some customer co-op activities there, and we can model those within the actual Walmart portfolio or within the Walmart in store versus the Walmart.com. So really what we wanted just to show here is that there's a hierarchy where your marketing is essentially having an impact on sales at different levels. And Keen has established a hierarchy of model that enables the brand to incorporate those investments at the appropriate levels to understand the impacts. So the main core question is how much is my media driving incremental revenue? And so this is a just standard snapshot that you can take from our application. You can see this bucketed up into smaller groups. You can break it out into, into larger groups. You can break it out into smaller groups. There's a lot of functionality with it. But at a high level, what you can see at the very top is the investment amount. How much are we investing behind each of these tactics? And then what is the profit ROI associated with that on an all years perspective? As well as what's the incremental profit on a 1 year perspective? And again, we think about marketing based off of the impact to the business, but also on different time frames. Certain marketing tactics will have more of an immediate impact. Some might have more of an equity building impact that needs to be modeled over a duration of time. So what we want to do is try and give you the tools to look at your marketing activations in the appropriate lenses. But ultimately, if you really want to answer, how much incremental revenue are we driving, you could look at that incremental profit, because we often want to think about not only the revenue, but the profit, meaning revenue minus your investments. And so what we're looking at right there is the incremental profit 1 year, where you can see where are the largest contributors to that. And you can see it's kind of sorted from, biggest to smallest, but ultimately you can look at that on a net profit 1 year, on an optimized MROI, which is your return on your next dollar. So there's multiple KPIs that you can look at. But ultimately, we provide the visibility at each of those levels.
Yeah, I think one of the things, Justin, that's interesting, if you call out the display ads for an example, things like display ads here, you could see it. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one over for those looking at the things across the bottom. Sean's point earlier around like nobody's paid on ROAS and you shouldn't be paid on ROI is true, because what oftentimes we find is that something like that display ad in the yellow bar, the display ad had a ROAS of like 7, and it's like, hey, look how great this is, and it's like, yeah, but you actually burned cash doing it, right? The number one reason that we find, especially in emerging CPGs, where your like budgets are being cut by your finance lead, is because you're so obsessed over ROAS and ROI that what ends up happening is you're actually burning cash when the finance team puts their forecast, their like cost of the capital, their investment through time, a discount rate, all of that. So again, at the end of the day, it's not only am I driving ROAS and incremental ROAS, am I driving profitable return in the form of a net profit or a net present value. So that's like a different conversation than most marketers are used to having. But honestly, it's the number one reason why we see budgets being cut today, is because when we pull this up, the ROAS looks amazing, but your profitability is tanking.
And here's just another slide that gives you a bit of a sense of the impact you're having and the halos that are being identified. And so you can see here, what we have is a bar that represents each of these sales channels. And then the color on the bar represents the investments into a specific channel. So if you just look at the Walmart in-store, that second bar to the right, what you can see is that the Walmart in-store and that light reddish kind of hue is the actual the impact of Walmart in-store spend on Walmart in-store sales. So the incremental profit you're getting from that Walmart in-store on Walmart in-store. But then you can also see where it's actually having an impact in some of the all other retailers. And so you can see the vast majority is still being kind of maintained within Walmart itself, but you are getting a bit of a halo into some of your other retailers. And so you can see that kind of across the board. Amazon, we also see something similar, where your Amazon dollars are going to have an impact on Amazon, but we don't want to necessarily ignore the impact that they're having off Amazon. So with this type of architecture and setup, you're able to identify the direct impacts, but also those kind of indirect or halo impacts. And then again, we can look here, if I just want to look at the in-store and on the online, if I have all of these portfolio tactics, my cable TV, if I just want to understand how much is cable TV contributing to my Walmart in-store sales versus my Walmart.com sales, you can see that exactly here. Obviously, the .com is a much smaller section. It's kind of a lighter blue that you can see, incrementally at some of the top few bars. But ultimately, this will give you a good sense of what is the relative impact you're seeing in-store versus .com for this type of activation. And so you can really start to dive in on your portfolio level tactics. Where are you seeing the biggest lift across your retailers?
And that's super important before we go into the analysis for your JBPs. Because one of the trends that we see right now is when the retailers are asking right now for incremental revenue for their retail media networks, it's the ability inside of Keen to say, I see why you're asking based off the response curve. They're asking for 22%. I can see why they're asking for that. But when I zoom out and look at the reality of my business, which is, well, I have other retailers that I need to service as well. I can pull back on that and still say, but part of the reason you're asking for that 22% is because you want me to hit this unit target and this velocity target. And inside of Keen's model, I still think I can hit that for you by taking some of those dollars and spending it in these other channels. And it's less about, that Walmart's retail media is not effective. Like, that's not what we're saying at all. We're saying that the interaction effect that is unlocked by some of these other channels interacting with Walmart's retail media makes it more effective than just spending it all within Walmart's retail media. So again, it's that reality that says, how do I allow them to have their cake and eat it too, while I also have my cake and eat it too? It's a win-win partnership, but I can now start to show this incremental revenue that I'm driving by keeping some of those dollars in top of the funnel outside of the retail media network. So again, just a use case that we see pretty commonly across CPG today.
Perfect. On the next few charts, we're actually just going to highlight some insights that we've aggregated across our portfolio of customers. So we have a rich kind of database of customers across different industries, but we're going to focus here on some of the retail media findings that we're seeing. So a couple of kind of high level kind of takeaways. One, everyone knows that retail media spend is growing and is getting bigger and bigger by brand and kind of by industry. But we're actually seeing that it's actually getting smarter as well. As we're seeing this investment grow and the amount of budget put towards RMN growing, we're actually seeing the ROIs kind of stay fairly stable, if not improve. We were expecting to see some of that fall off and have some diminishing returns as you ramp up that investment, but we've been happily impressed with what we've seen from the performance, and so we can dive into some of those. Another thing that we've found out specifically to Walmart is that it actually is consistently outperforming some of the other retail media channels that you're able to advertise on, both on the search and the display, not only in what you've achieved from a historical ROI, but also if you think about where you can get the next biggest bang for your dollar. What we see is that Walmart is oftentimes one of those areas that you can continue to invest and get a better return than you could out of Amazon or some of the more popular ones. And finally, the last thing that we want to just highlight is that there are some growth opportunities here. What we've seen, especially on the Walmart side, is that it's commanding roughly 8-10%, depending on which kind of slice of data you're looking at. But it's outperforming a lot of the other ones. So it really does have an opportunity to play a bigger role within your retail media network, which we're excited is performing well for most brands. So here we're really just showing some of the adoption of retail media. If we think about your media budget being towards retail media and non-retail media, what we really saw is that shift towards retail media kind of kicked off in 2020, right around that COVID time period. But since 2021, it has been up and to the right. And in 2024, I think we saw pretty much a third of the media budget going towards retail media tactics. So obviously a very significant increase over 2-3 years. And then right below that top table, you're going to see a couple charts that show the ROI and the MROI. ROI just being what was the kind of profitability of your investments. MROI being what would be the profitability on the next dollar you invest. Essentially, where are you on that point of diminishing returns curve? And what we're really seeing here is, earlier in the days when people were spending less on retail media network, they were getting strong ROIs and they were kind of leaving money on the table. The MROI was much higher than on the non-retail media. And so really what we were seeing is that, hey, people started to lean in, they were seeing good performance and they needed to keep leaning in. And what we've seen in the last year or two, over the last few quarters, is that ROI is actually fairly balanced. One, not only is it above $1, which extremely encouraged about. If it's above $1, you're generating net profitable returns. But also that the parity between retail media and non-retail media is still fairly consistent, where retail media, in Q2, Q1, Q3 of 2024, maybe was slightly underinvested. Q4, maybe slightly overinvested, but we're just seeing really strong parity, which means that as you're shifting the budget, we're getting a good balance of returns from your retail versus your non-retail media tactics. And then we wanted to give you kind of a snapshot of the retailer and the ad format. And so you can see on the table to the left the amount of investment by specific retail media network. So obviously Amazon is sitting there at the top. It's the gorilla in the room at kind of 64% of the total budget. But what you can see here is that if you scroll down, Walmart's sitting there at about 8% of the total budget, but actually commanding a much higher ROI relative to Amazon, to Instacart, to other. Really you don't see it till Target or Kroger once you get to 4 to 2% of the budget where you start to see something comparable. So, as one of the bigger players in the market that we're seeing continually expand and bring in more inventory, we see that customers are really underspending here, and that not only are their returns typically higher on Walmart than others, but their opportunity on that next dollar invested, that MROI, is still strong. You can see the same thing as you look into, here we go again. Yeah, so as we look into the display versus the search side versus kind of the video side, what the performance is, and overall very much encouraged that within even our RMN search and the RMN display, we're still seeing relatively stronger performance compared to some of the other major retailers.
Yeah, just one thing to call out and remind folks is that the concept of a response curve, which is the first dollar I spend generally has a greater return than the last dollar that I spend because there is a point of diminishing return. So part of when you read something like Target retail media search at 246, part of that is like, well, is it like just a more effective channel because the ROI is higher? The answer is like maybe, but reality is like, well, part of it is like you're just dramatically underspending in that channel overall as an industry, right? So the ROI is high because you're still going up on that response curve versus something like Amazon is a little bit lower, but you're much further up. And you know that because when you combine an ROI with an MROI, again, ROI is the average ROI, the revenue divided by the investment. MROI is the ROI on the next incremental unspent dollar. So if it's still above, like in this case, target is $1.10, it means that you're still going up on that response curve. Therefore, that ROI is high because the channel is generally underspent. So again, it's an effectiveness versus an efficiency type of conversation. So just want to call that out because I know some folks look at this and say, does that mean Target is more effective than Amazon? No, it just means Target is spent less in this case.
And this dives into kind of the meat of the search specific. And so at the top part, we have kind of across our portfolio. The bottom part is specific to food and beverage. Generally, we are seeing fairly similar trends across across both industries, where Amazon is still the biggest kind of, part of the overall spend. And then it goes into the Instacart, the other in Walmart. So Walmart is still roughly around 10% on both sides. But again, it is outperforming both on the ROI and the MROI, just showing that, if we were to make recommendations and our customers are utilizing the optimization part of the budget, we would expect that more of those dollars should continue to be reallocated to Walmart and probably taken away from some of the larger players like an Amazon or Instacart. Again, not saying we go 100 to 0 and not saying you take all of that budget, shift it over. But what we think about is on the margin, how do you improve your performance? You improve it by making marginal changes to your investments. Similarly, cut on display, we have again the total versus the food and beverage. Again, we're seeing kind of very similar performance trends here as well. Instacart at a lower position on display relative to search. They do have a stronger foothold in search. So Walmart is slightly larger there. Again, what we're seeing here is, slightly, maybe kind of right in the middle of the road, right around the benchmark of what we're seeing. Maybe Walmart's search is performing slightly better than display, but again, display appears to be very well underspent relative to Amazon. Amazon consistently, over and again, we always see brands are overspending on Amazon.
Okay, great. So hopefully that's enough numbers for everybody. I think it's fantastic to understand that and to also see the value of where where Walmart has an upside. I also want to share out that so Bradley dropped in the chat that if you want more insights, they have an industry report to be able to see more of that kind of data across the board. Kevin talked earlier about their state of retail media report. You can download it via here, and I know Jeff dropped that in the chat earlier as well. And then coming next month, Bird Dog and Keen, we've partnered together to create an SMB retail media spend report to understand What's the significant differences between SMBs and enterprise? So what you'll see from Sky is a lot more of the traditional enterprise clients. SMB, and I can tell you right now, the data we've seen is dramatically different and where the dollars are going. And so to be able to benchmark against both of those is to give a very clear understanding of where you are as a brand drives what you'll need to be from these two different reports. Okay, so for all those who have stuck around to the bitter end, huge thank you. And we'll open the floor for any Q&A. If you have any energy left to even do that, feel free to drop it in the chat or in the Q&A. Otherwise, we really appreciate the time that you've spent with us and with our partners. You got more questions? You want to learn more about that, how we can help, or just got questions about the business? You can contact me or Jeff here. We can also get you in contact with any of our partners who all work with us through our platform. But if you need to work with them directly, that's great too. We just want to see people succeed and win in retail media. All right. Well, with that, a huge thank you and a big thank you to Matt Pfeiffer. And appreciate you giving us this platform to talk about Walmart in a very in-depth, long format way. Appreciate it.
Great job, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.